a lot less than that. One of the concerns I have is relative to the how much the people operating these things, the supposed compassionate assistants, and don't get me wrong, they are out there. Those who are the advocates for the compassionate aspects of this, I don't think they would mind having a cap if they are truly compassionate. The ones who would mind having a cap on salaries would be those who want to take advantage of this situation to profit from it. Now, even though these are going to be non-profit organizations, they can still make a lot of money. And the way you do that is just by paying high salaries. So 10W is an amendment to require that the ordinance include a provision that nobody should make more than $100,000 a year.
Addressing the compassionate use issue, District 3 Councilmember Dennis Zine says many of the clinics are masking illegal marijuana use under the guise of true medical need.
If this was truly the Compassionate Use Act 215, we wouldn't have upwards of 900 to 1,000 locations in the city of Los Angeles making tremendous amount of money. Compassionate use means not to make a lot of money. Mr. Alarcon says $100,000. If they have 2 or 3 people involved, that could be $200,000 or $300,000. I've heard upwards of thousands of dollars that have been taken in the police raids at facilities. If we want to be real with it, we know that many doctors are writing these notes for any kind of ailment, and we know that it's really masking the legitimacy of marijuana under the medical aspect. So if we want to talk about a collective that's compassionate use under 215, we need to be real with the income or what they're charging. And if you go to a facility, and I've been to 3 facilities, they have the mark board and it tells how much you're paying for the different product. There's no question that we wouldn't be where we are now with the number if they weren't making a whole lot of money. And that money's not going to help sick people. That money is going to help people who want to be wealthy, and they found a lucrative way to skirt the system. And that's what it's about. We need to get down to what the 215 is about, the Compassionate Use Act, for people who have illnesses where they get a legitimate doctor's note and they can do it in a proper fashion, versus someone who wants to get high and they play that game and then they get high under the note of a doctor. And there was a broadcast on a major television station, major network, and this doctor said that anyone who comes in can get a note for medical marijuana. So let's be real with it. We're talking about the profit margin. There's a huge profit margin. We need to focus on compassion for people who need it for legitimate medical purposes, and that's the key. So I agree that there should be a cap on it, but also if you're a nonprofit, we know that people can receive expensive compensation packages. We need to bring it down so the cost to the people who need it isn't excessive, as we see in many cases. So the bottom line is medical issues, serious medical issues, and the next thing we need to pursue, and I think Mr. Wesson has a motion moving forward to check on the doctors who have basically given up their medical practice and simply in business to write these notes so people can get this substance, and they're charging $100 to $200. So those doctors have really violated their oath to be there to help people, and they become involved in this lucrative process. So it's frustrating that we see the abuse that's taking place, and meanwhile people have AIDS and cancer and are dying, and they need it to keep themselves somewhat comfortable, and there are people who are ripping them off, and that's the wrong thing to do.
Believing the council is losing focus on the real issue, District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn encourages her colleagues to concentrate on regulation of medical marijuana dispensaries.
I thought our goal was to figure out how to take the Compassionate Use Act, which basically says anyone who needs this and has been prescribed this by a doctor will be able to have safe access. Now you're going after the compensation of the people who are running these, and now we're going to go after the doctors who are writing these notes. This is so far. Honestly, if you take that logic that everybody who's in compassionate professions shouldn't be making more than $100,000, I think we could go after every doctor, every cancer specialist, every, really. had to get up and speak on this one. This is not our business. Business is to regulate these facilities the best way we can, deal with LAPD, building and safety, but really, when you're starting to get into how much people are making and doctors who are, that's not what we're here for, and I'm going to vote no on this one because it's just not any of our business. Let's stay focused on what we're doing, which is to regulate these dispensaries, but making sure that people have safe access. I mean, everything from the air filtration to the compensation, this is just not our business, I don't believe. So let's stay focused. I think you're taking one ordinance of one particular industry and trying to throw in the entire kitchen sink. It's really, it's a little bit disturbing, colleagues. Let's stay focused on what we're here to do.
Mr. Alarcon. With all due respect, Janice, I think we are very focused on this issue. And I do believe that, first of all, there are, I don't know which industry you're talking about, the illegal marijuana industry or the new concept that is for these this industry that we've created by accident that is operating illegally. I don't know if that's the industry you are concerned about capping their salaries. I don't know exactly what you're talking about there, but let me tell you this. We do have requirements for our nonprofit agencies that are contracted with us. We do not overcompensate them. There are standards for nonprofit entities, and those are the standards we should use to drive this ordinance. Now, so I'm happy to amend my motion to say that the ordinance should reflect industry standards established by the United Way for the operation of nonprofits. They have them, and not just compensation for executives, compensation across the board, but we can get those. So I absolutely believe we should do this where this industry is ripe with people ripping off money from those who are truly seriously ill versus those who have a small crick in their back. I mean, that's not what this is about, folks. You want to legalize marijuana, change the law. I have no problem with that. Make it like beer as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. But if you want to act as if it's already legal, you are wrong. We got to do things in accordance to the law. And when I read the law, and when I read the interpretations of the law by the Attorney General, by the court system, by, yes, the DA, and by the city attorney, it is pretty clear to me. It is not vague. We are currently operating over hundreds and hundreds of these illegally. And so we got to get real. If we are truly going to give marijuana to those who have serious, truly serious injuries. So, yes, I believe we ought to cap the compensation because I believe it will be abused. People will be making millions of dollars if we do not cap it.
Additional amendments to the ordinance were also discussed, including placing a cap on the number of outlets that would be allowed to operate in the city. Well, District 13 Councilmember Eric Garcetti believes this is the most important part of the debate.
This is the crux of the matter. This is the most important part for us. It is not at all to dismiss the debate that's gone on between cash transactions. It is not at all to say that there are some very important issues. But I think if you talk to the average Angelenos, the regulation of and the number of which are intimately interrelated because the number will affect our city's capacity to actually regulate. Look at billboards. We've been overwhelmed by the number, and our ability to inspect has been directly related to that. This is what Angelenos care most about. It certainly is what I've heard the most from my constituents when there's been complaints of any collectives or dispensaries. Atwater Village was a good example in which we saw 5 open up in a 3-block radius, and we worked with the community very quickly, and thank you to Mr. Reyes, to get ones that were using the hardship exemption without any hardship closed down and back to a more regulated manner. But this is a really, really important piece, and it's part of the reason I stepped down to speak on this. One of the things we've discussed is that I think there's been a majority of colleagues that I've talked to have said that they believe there should be some special consideration to those who played by the rules. We also know, though, and we've talked to a lot of community members and city staff, that just because you played by the rules to put things out there doesn't mean you haven't violated other rules. So it's very critical for us not to say that these are grandfathered in an automatic way, as Mr. Koretz said, but that they be given some due consideration, some due process, because part of this is also protecting ourselves legally, to make sure we're doing this in the right manner, to say, look, we set rules, we changed the rules, but we're not going to go back and say just because the rules are changed that you have no time to adjust to those. There should be some consideration, and one of the motions that's before us gives that 6-month consideration to become compliant, to allow those to have some kind of first-in-line privileges, because we've been working with them, and more often than not, they've been good. That doesn't mean they've always been good, and many of them have gone out of business, which actually simplifies this process. I stood up last time saying I didn't want, and it wasn't a reflection of the number Mr. Huizar put forward per se, but I didn't want the number to be too low, because I don't think it's that there's a bunch of Costco's that are going to open. I just know that we as council members, the bigger an entity is, a big entity gets more complaints than a smaller entity. It also may simplify for the police the ability to regulate, so those are also push and pull. In Oakland, they have 4 for a town of, I don't know, about 300,000 people, I think, in Oakland, and they're able to, regulate that, so maybe that isn't so big that it becomes a spillover effect. But we all know, whether it was Mr. LaBonge talking about secondhand smoke, whether it's the impact in a neighborhood, and in certain districts as well, there's less land. Mr. Reyes and I both have about 13 square miles, so if we look at population, when people pack more tightly together, you just get more land use complaints, because the spillover effect of a bad bar, of a bad store, of a bad anything always affects more people just by that population density. I think we're honing in on a pretty good number. I think it is probably somewhere between going about 70 and maybe 150. I mean, I'm feeling that is a good place to go. And the reason I would say this is because it's always easier to say there aren't enough and open up more, and we saw how quickly the marketplace was flooded with, it's a very relatively low startup cost. People can do this. Collectives can come together relatively quickly. So I'm not worried about our ability to wind up. I am worried about our ability to wind down. That's the problem Los Angeles faces right now, is it wound up so quickly that we had 1,000 that we have to process now on hardship exemptions, which overwhelms the bureaucracy, and maybe that was the point for some people. But it affects us and it affects our constituents, many of whom need access, and good access from a good operator, and many who want to make sure that they have a neighborhood where they can have their rights respected as well.
After the public comment period, the marathon meeting ended with a birthday acknowledgement.
We're going to look at taking this up on Wednesday, colleagues, next Wednesday. So please come back a week from tomorrow. We will have this here. Thank you all for your patience, for your hard work, and have a great Thanksgiving. Mr. Clerk, if you will please go to the next order of business.
Council has motions for posting and referral,
Those are posted and referred.
and the desk is clear.
All right. Any announcements, colleagues? Obviously, we had committees that were canceled today, Education, Neighborhoods, and other ones. Any other announcements before tomorrow? Any adjourning motions before tomorrow? All right. Well, if there are no others, Mr. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Alarcon, Hun, Weezer, Koretz, LaBonge, Perry, Reyes, Smith, Zine, and Garcetti.
And before everybody goes and the cameras are off, I want to wish the council member from the 7th District a very happy birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Alarcon.
It's been...
This was our present. Remember to blow out those candles.
And with those revisions, the ordinance was sent back to the city attorney's office for yet another draft to be considered on Wednesday, December 2nd. You can listen to city council meetings as well as committee and commission meetings on the telephone by using the city's council phone system. In the downtown area, dial 213-621-CITY. In West LA, dial 310-471-CITY. For the San Pedro area, dial 310-547-CITY. And in the San Fernando Valley, dial 818-904-9450. Just follow the recorded instructions for the meetings you want to hear. And we invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall, or go to the Van Nuys or San Pedro City Halls and participate via video teleconferencing. And remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m., and on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Well, that concludes our program for the week ending November 27th, 2009. On behalf of Michael Martin and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Jack Popejoy. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
You think it can't happen to someone like you? Are you crazy? It could happen to anyone.
No one can save your life, or the life of someone you love.
Hey, it's free. It's painless and easy. Don't be scared. Just get tested.
Know for sure. Get an HIV test now.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
Friends, listen, welcome to our City Council meeting for today, Wednesday, December 2nd, 2009. We're here in the John Ferraro Council Chamber, room 340 of City Hall. We meet here every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m., and we are on the first Friday of each month in Van Nuys City Hall, where we will be this coming Friday. Welcome to our guests who are here in council chambers, as well as those in our remote locations in Van Nuys City Hall and San Pedro City Hall. Welcome also to our viewers on Channel 35 and those who are watching on the internet or listening in through their phone. For your convenience, we have 4 or 5 different ways to follow your council meetings, live here in council chambers in Van Nuys or San Pedro, where you can testify remotely, through the internet at lacity.org, where you have live streaming webcasts of our council meetings, as well as archive footage of our past meetings, through your telephone on council phone, which is 213-621-CITY, and you can listen not only to the full council meetings, but any of our committee meetings, and then, of course, on Channel 35 throughout the city's cable system. Our agendas are available in the back. Those are also available online, made available to the public 72 hours in advance with all the supporting materials that council members read, so that you can have the same information that we do as well as we make our decisions on important legislative matters and other matters that are before us. With that, we do have 10 members here on time, so Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Alarcon, Cardenas, Hahn, Weezer, Koretz, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosenthal, Smith, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 10 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, if I can ask folks to wind down their conversation so we can run through the agenda. If we can please start going through the agenda.
First order is approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Zine moves and Mr. Smith seconds without objection. Those will be approved. Next order of business.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
All right, Mr. Koretz moves and Mr. Labange seconds without objection. Those will be approved as well. If we can go through the items on today's agenda.
Before beginning the regular agenda, there is a request to continue several of the items. Item number 8, a request to continue that matter to December 8th.
Okay, is there any objection, colleagues, to continuing 8 until December 8th? If not, we will go ahead and continue that. Other items?
Also a request on item number 12 to continue that matter to December 15th.
Okay, December 15th for item 12 without objection. We will continue that as well.
And
For
also
council members, please.
one of the closed session items, a request to continue item number 30 to January 6, 2010.
Okay. Any objection to that, council? Seeing none, that will be continued till the 6th of January in 2010.
On the regular agenda, items
If I
noticed...
can ask folks to please, we can ask folks to keep their conversations to a minimum as we run through the agenda. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, I couldn't hear you. If you could say that again.
Items noticed for public hearings, they're all building and safety items. The department has requested that items 1, 2, 4, and 6 be continued to February 10th.
Okay. Without objection, we'll continue those.
And item number 3, a request to receive and file that one inasmuch as the lien has been paid.
All right. We'll receive and file number 3 without objection.
And item 5 can go forward to be confirmed.
Okay. Do we have any cards on 5?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. I will move that then. If we can please open the roll on item 5, close the roll, and please tabulate the vote.
10 eyes.
Item 5 is approved. Go to the next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have been held. Items 7 through 20. Items 7 and 9 are ordinances. Do you wish to hold those on the desk? I believe 12 will be present today.
Okay. Yeah, we are still awaiting the council members who are late. That's Councilmember Cardenas, Councilmember Weezer, and Ms. Hahn and Ms. Perry are excused to arrive late. So, Mr. Cardenas and Mr. Weezer, if you'll please join us. We need both of you for ordinances. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. If Mr. Weezer will join us, we'll be able to take that up. So let's hold the ordinance and the ordinances. Mr. Labange.
Item 11.
11 for Mr.
Special.
Labange. Okay, we will call it special for Mr. Labange.
And I believe there's a request on item number 16. Mr. Alarcon wishes to call that special as well.
Sorry, Mr. Labange?
Madam Clerk said something that I didn't hear.
Yes, Madam Clerk, would you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Item number 16. I believe Mr. Alarcon wishes to call that special.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll call 16 special for Mr. Alarcon. And any other specials, colleagues? We'll hold those ords on the desk with those 2 specials. Otherwise, I think on item 19 we require a motion, is that?
Yes, and the report has been submitted and is in the process of being distributed to the council.
Okay. Let's go ahead and open the roll on the balance then. close the roll and tabulate the vote.
11 eyes.
Okay, those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are items for which public hearings have not been held, items 21 through 29. 10 votes are required for consideration on those.
Okay, if there's no objection to consideration, those are before us. Mr. Labange?
26 special for Ms. Hahn,
Okay,
28 special,
all right.
and also 22.
Okay, we'll call those special. Do we have cards from
I
the public on any of these?
believe there are cards on 22, 23, 24, 25, and 28.
Okay. We'll close the hearings on 21, 27, and 29. If nobody wishes to call those specials, let's go ahead and prepare the roll and tabulate the vote
11 eyes.
on those. Those are approved. Next items, please.
Next items are the closed session items. Do you wish to hold those on the desk?
Yeah, Mr. Parks, were any of the closed session items ones that you wanted to move, or?
Yes, we can move item 31, an open session. That's a rejection of a settlement offer.
Okay. If there's, Mr. Parks has moved that. If there's no difference, we have that before us for open session.
Mr. President, I believe there's a card on 31.
Okay.
Do you wish
Call
to?
that, yeah, we'll call that special for the card. We can take that up a little bit later. And then we'll hold 32 and 33 for closed session, and 30 we continued. All right. Are there any other items, or is that?
That would take council back to the items called special and the public comment.
Okay. Now we'll take general public comment. As a reminder to folks who are here regularly, and for those who are not, who are here for the first time, our general public comment is for items that are not on the agenda, but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the city. There's 2 minutes per speaker. That is right there on the podium to help you guide your times. And Dr. Clyde Williams, you are the first speaker. You'll be followed by Michael Hunt. Good morning.
Good morning. Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. LIDS. Does anyone know what LIDS means? Well, it's the Bureau of Sanitation Urban Stormwater Program's attempt to circumvent the fees that they're going to charge. Eventually, we will be paying $500 per parcel per year for each parcel in the city of Los Angeles based upon the Bureau of Sanitation's own calculations back in April. LIDS is supposed to contain stormwater on the plots. However, they give you one rain barrel, which is 50 gallons, but a 5,000 square foot lot will generate, in their design rainstorm, it'll generate roughly maybe 750 gallons of stormwater. Thereby, there will be runoff, and the runoff will be charged at $20 a gallon for every new building and every restored building, restorations, for every gallon. So that's going to be a lot of money. This is basically an attempt to justify parcel fees initially of $50, that is 100% increase over what is now charged, 100% increase for next year. It'll come on the property tax as a fee, stormwater fee. But then in 10 years, it'll be $500 in order just to pay for the operations and maintenance of the stormwater system for the city of LA. This is Bureau of Sanitation's way of getting more money for compliance of things that should be done more specifically within the city of Los Angeles and a clear, informed consent of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Michael Hunt is our next speaker, to be followed by Patrick Wiseman. Good morning.
Good morning, City Council. I want to thank Bill Rosenthal for listening to us about the 4215, and I'm really happy about what's happening now. We are finally making progress in Venice Beach. So I want to keep up the good work. Progress starts with talking, and talking starts with understanding what's really happening. So when you don't see me here, you know I'm happy because I'm at work. And when I'm at work, I get to do what I do. And just like you guys working, it means a lot to me. So with that, I want to thank Matt Dowd and Zuma Dog for keeping up the good work. It's time to resolve the issues. It's time to move on. And it's time for everybody to prevail in what they do. My name is Michael Hunt. Thank you. And thank you again, Bill, for listening. That's where it all starts, community-based policing, jobs for people.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. Patrick Wiseman is our next speaker. After that is Deborah Stevens. Good morning.
Good morning, council members. I'm here to talk about the cannabis situation. We have a bad law that's out there, and I know you guys are trying to fix it, but it's already been written bad. And what you guys are trying to do, okay, is get deeper and deeper, okay, to try to fix it, but you're going one step backwards. You're trying to fix, okay, a bad boo-boo by creating a bigger boo-boo here. Okay, what Mr. Weiser, for instance, okay, talked about capping it. It'll be chaos on the street. I mean, the numbers don't match. 70, 200, 300. You gotta let capitalism take its course. The price of cannabis got to go down by 50, 60%. People will shut down their stores. They won't be able to pay their rent. You have to understand Mr. Alarcon coming up with this stuff about not using cash. I mean, really. American cash you can't use to buy stuff. You guys have to stand back and just let the process take its course. You're going to have to rewrite this law. The legislators are going to have to do it. But right now, going a step backwards will not help the situation. It will not make it compassion. With capping this stuff, okay, the price will go up, okay, to surpass gold. That's not compassion. You're going to have lines on the streets, okay, around the block. You're taking a $2.5 billion business, okay, and you're going to divide it by 70 or 120. That's $40 million a year per place. That's $100,000 a day, gentlemen. You're going to have to do like 15 drops to the bank. It's not going to work. You got to step backwards and let the process take its course and look, okay, at the side effect. But you have to rewrite the law. Okay, the law hasn't been written by people, okay, who understand cannabis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weissman. Our next speaker is Deborah Stevens. After Ms. Stevens will be Zuma Dog. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, City Council members. My name is Deborah Stevens, and I understand the medical marijuana item has been continued, so I'd like to state my comments now. I have lived in the San Fernando Valley for the majority of my life, and I'm here to represent myself with my comments. And I do not own a dispensary, I do not use medical marijuana, but I do care about the rights of those that are ill and use medical marijuana responsibly for their health problems. I truly care about this issue, and I understand both sides, pro and con. I do agree with this council that a demand study for medical marijuana use is warranted. However, please do not create a cap that would result in the creation of monopolies within the collective system. Those people who truly need marijuana need to be able to purchase products at a reasonable and fair price. Please create reasonable caps so that a cap system will not get in the way of true capitalism. Also, I feel strongly that the registration of collectives to operate in this city needs to start from scratch so that the delivery system can comply with the true intent of the California Compassionate Use Act. Please, please do not allow the existing dispensaries to have any priority in the system due to the fact that many, but certainly not all of them, have not been operating within the intent of the current law. We should definitely not be rewarding businesses in this city who did not do the right thing by the current law guidelines. Please ensure that the collectives will provide products that will be safe for the use and consumption by the public. Please make sure that problems such as possible insecticide-contaminated products will be a thing of the past. Many of the ill people have immune system problems, and this is a very serious matter. In addition, you must pay attention to the specific zones that will allow cultivation, especially currently agriculturally zoned properties. Do not reduce the value of those agriculturally zoned properties by giving agricultural use permits freely to any other zoning. That would be essentially equivalent to a form of a taking, since the current value of those agricultural zoned properties would certainly be negatively affected by allowing other zones to have agricultural rights also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Stevens. Appreciate your comments today. Zuma Dog is our next speaker. After that is Arnold Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, City Council and City of Los Angeles. Zumadog with my revamped website, zumadog.org, for continued coverage. The medical marijuana ordinance has been continued to next week for those tuning in for that. My thoughts and best wishes to City Attorney Carmen Tutanich, who is recovering, and please, everybody pray for Carmen. I'm sure he's okay, but we need him back here so that I can sit there and talk against his medical marijuana ordinance. I can't wait for that day. Bill Rosendahl with the parking. I see a lot of LA Times and Daily News and Michael Linder from KABC. I guess the big issue today is going to be the Venice parking, where they want to just dump all the overnight parking in Venice, which, of course, would cause a problem. So I joined Bill Rosendahl in asking all the other council members to approve overnight parking, because we have a wave of homelessness. People will be living in their RVs and cars more, and, of course, you can't have it all diffused to one district. So leaders, please stand up and don't make Bill Rosendahl and Zumadog bear the burden of all the parking due to your homelessness. Now I'd like to talk about the budget, the big enchilada, and if I can please have everybody's attention, especially the people at home, because on Wednesday's meeting, they had the reports, and it was so bad that the city would not rebroadcast the meeting twice. So I'm here to say, after extensive discussions with top city experts, this next year will be the firings. Last year they talked about it. They said we're going to tighten belts. They did nothing. There's no choice any longer. In January to June, this council will be making decisions. Entire departments will be eliminated. I'm not saying this happy. I'm saying it's the worst crisis thing. We're going to have way less money than we expected. It's a doomsday scenario. The next 4 years is just going right into bankruptcy. We're going over the edge like Thelma and Louise. And so, a warning, people, although the mayor and city council did everything to prevent massive job firings and losses and service, it's all coming this year. Please save your money, people. Save your money, people. Save your money.
Thank you, Mr. Dog. Arnold Sachs is our next speaker. After that is John Walsh.
Good morning. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. I'm kind of surprised because after reading several of the new agendas, there's a lack of special events listed, which is a good thing. But the Lakers, the Kings are still playing. USC has games at the Coliseum. So why are those events not listed as special events, and the amount of money that the city should be now be reimbursed for the safety officers included? Why doesn't the public have an idea of the amount of money that was waived at the 6 arenas for all the events held from 1998 to September of this year? How much money was spent? How much money was not collected for these arenas for the special events that were held there? Now they don't have the protection because the mighty city council has acted. So why don't we have the controller drop Sandwichgate and look into the amount of money that should be collected? It took 8 years, 2 terms for all the city councils, almost all these city council sitting members, to act on those special event waiver fees. And now, last Wednesday, as Zumadog mentioned, the city council is really going to get tough. They're really going to tighten their belts. They're really going to come down hard. We have 3 ex-city police officers who had no idea that public safety officers were getting paid at special events and the city wasn't getting reimbursed, including the head of the budget department. No idea. Look into it as a cost-saving measure? Are you kidding me? Why should we do that? We might offend some special interest. Litigate, litigate, litigate.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is John Walsh. After that is Matt Dowd.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org, 18,000 hits a week. We'd like to have a moment of silence at the end of the meeting for the LA Times reporter who committed suicide this week. It is chaos over at the LA Times. There will be more suicides. HollywoodHighlands.org. You know, we're the only people who get up here and say it the way the LA Weekly says it. And that's simple. Who is the most important person on marijuana policy, medical marijuana policy in the city. It's not you, it's not the mayor, it's not the city council, it's not the sheriff, it's nobody but a man named Don Duncan. Have you ever heard of him? Don Duncan of Safe Access. They have got the ordinance that they want. Cash. That means it cannot be audited. They don't have to use any kind of they don't have to use a cash register. It's from the hand into the pocket. Who is supplying the medical marijuana? 2% of the people who use it actually are seriously ill. It is the gangs in the city of Los Angeles. 2 gangs are mentioned in this article, LA Weekly, Florencia and 18th Street gang. I didn't say it. The LA Weekly said they're supplying to the clinics. And also the Mexican Mafia, and also the Mexican cartels, according to John Duran. It's in this article. Your ordinance is an invitation for everybody to continue as is. And you've destroyed medical marijuana as a principle in the other states, the 37 states that don't have it. This is the shame of Los Angeles. And I have the guts to get up here and say it. And if you want to read it, go to HollywoodHighlands.org. And there are hundreds of people saying, I'm afraid to get up in the city of Los Angeles and say things like that because I might be murdered. Okay? I said
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Matt Dowd is our next speaker. After that is Bruce Darien in Van Nuys. Good morning.
Can we get a disinfectant? Yes, thank you. And it's lovely to have comments. It's much less disruptive just to let the 2 minutes roll by instead of picking on every time someone says, hey, Bill, what's up? But anyway, I want to comment on...
the council as a whole. Thank you.
I want to comment on Greg Smith's comments that none of the fault of the finances in the city right now are his fault or this council's fault because all those decisions were made 10 years ago. Well, under that kind of logic, the state is bankrupt right now. Hands up anyone who was in the state assembly 10 years ago. And we probably get Alarcon and the mayor and Koretz and all these people up who were in the state. So the state's problems are... Greg Smith says it's your fault now. And you're not even there. I got the medical marijuana solution. It's a state. I'm going to hand it out. Can you, can the sergeant at arms, I got a one for the city attorney. It's a state issue. It's state law. The only way the federal government is going to allow it to continue is if you do it like this. Let me tell you, because as soon as Obama's voted out, because people are going to lose faith when all the house of financial cards you're playing with, when that crumbles, Obama's going to be out, and the Republicans are going to get back in, and guess what's going to happen to all the medical marijuana co-ops? Gone. Unless you do it this way. Here it is. Can we have is someone going to collect this from me? I'm trying to...
As soon as you finish, we'll collect it. Go ahead.
Okay, but, I want to talk about it right now. What it involves is having state-approved doctors who write prescriptions, state-approved growers, and state-approved dispensaries, and they all work out of a website, so there's accountability, so that Greg Smith can be happy. Accountability. Here it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bruce Darien is our final speaker. He's in Van Nuys City Council chambers remotely. Good morning, Mr. Darien.
Good morning, City Council. Tomorrow, the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. will be having a conference regarding my cases as well as other cases that are docketed for tomorrow's conference. The 2 cases are 09405 and 09406. And I want to relay to the public what questions are being presented to the United States Supreme Court over my whistleblower action over the last 10 years. Here they are as follows. Number 1. Relator is a person who is expressly authorized to bring suit on his own behalf and on behalf of the government. Number 2, the state is a person under the False Claims Act. Number 3, relator is broadly protected as a whistleblower both under the Federal False Claims Act and under the Federal Water Pollution Control Act, Clean Water Act. 4, the False Claims Act has original jurisdiction over all claims, both federal and state, and preempts all other actions. 5. Relator's constitutional right to due process was violated by ruling without hearings. 6. The government has no claim without relator's continuing right to prosecute his claims. 7. Plaintiff presented triable issues to the court which should have precluded granting summary judgment for the remaining defendants on the RICO claims. 8. The Ninth Circuit Court abused its discretion in not allowing a final extension of time to file the opening brief, given the fact it was supported by a doctor's letter and was unopposed by all parties to the appeal. And the other claim in Pasternak's case is presented as number 5. The United States is the plaintiff under the False Claims Act, and thus relator and the United States governments are statutorily entitled to 60 days from final judgment in filing an appeal. I hope that the United States Supreme Court will hear these two cases, and the United States, the people of the United States will understand and will be enlightened as to what's gone on over the last 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Darian. And we do have one last card. Also here in Council Chambers, just added James Shaw. If you'd like to come forward. And just as a side note for those who are following medical marijuana issue, the Chief Legislative Analyst's report did come out this morning. There was still an issue or two to resolve last night, so it wasn't posted up there. But anybody who goes to that, that is available for the public and members of the council as of this morning. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, council members. My name is James Shaw. I'm with the Union of Medical Marijuana Patients, and I've come here today to offer a solution to the concerns of over cultivation and the diversion of medicine to non-patients. And that is a product called AgSite Secure. And I don't believe I can enter it into the agenda today because it's not an official item. You've postponed the topic. But I will bring this topic back on Tuesday. But in the meantime, I will stop by your offices this afternoon and deliver an outline of the program. Essentially, all patient associations that participate in AgSite Secure have their the medicine limits that are authorized by the patients of their association monitored and tracked so that there's never over cultivation or overproduction of medicine, and it's also tracked at the dispensary location so that the exact amount of medicine that's being consumed by any patient association matches the amount of medicine that's being cultivated by that association. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak with each of you individually or provide a PowerPoint presentation on the merits of this program, and I believe it will solve the city's concerns about overcultivation and diversion of medicine. So thank you for your attention to this.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. That will close our general public comment for today. We'll go back to the items called special. If we can link items 11 and 22 together, please. And why don't we take the card at the outset? We have cards, I think, on item 22. Dr. Clyde Williams, if you'd like to come forward as the first speaker on item 22. And then Arnold Sachs will follow.
Dr. Clyde Williams, El Sereno, Northeast LA. What a fiasco. The high-speed rail station at Union Station. Background. I helped build the Red Line station under Union Station. And there's plenty of room to go under Union Station and under the Red Line. It's just a matter that high-speed rail doesn't want to pay for it. Right now, there are organizations within the United States that are more than willing to do a design and build, or BOT, build, operate, and transfer, or a public-private partnership for the high-speed rail station at Union Station between the Piper Tech and the Metro Tower Block. So it can be done, not only above ground, on ground, but more importantly, underground. The monster that high-speed rail wants to put on top of the Union Station should never be done. It's going to be a real problem for Little Tokyo, but from northeast side, Chinatown, Lincoln Heights, Cypress Park, Atwater Village, Glasgow Park, all of these communities are going to be adversely affected by this overhead monster. It eventually comes down in the Metrolink yard. However, getting there is going to be a real problem. So I would highly recommend that you include all of the neighborhood councils as a working group for the high-speed rail in the planning department, because planning doesn't know what they're doing. The Bureau of Engineering doesn't appear to know what they're doing. But remember that we built stations under Hill Street, at 7th, at Wilshire and Alvarado, all with California contractors. And they're doing it now in Chinatown and San Francisco. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Arnold Sachs, our next speaker, to be followed by Zuma Dog.
Good morning again. Thank you. Arnold Sachs. Another rail project, another time for multiple stations, multiple routes, multiple studies, endless amount of assets poured into multiple studies, because each study will be a multiple of the other study, which will mean another study. Look at the red line. Look at the MTA's study program. You can build another wing for the MTA just to hold the results of the study. Not that anything has been accomplished, per se, compared to the amount of money that's been poured into the studies. Why studies? And you're not including the request for the councils to move the high-speed rail to the LAX. Where does that study enter into it? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Zuma Dog is our next speaker, and then Matt Dowd.
Yes, it says here, requesting high-speed rail to consider multiple sites for a downtown speed rail location. First of all, don't build the speed rail downtown. You want to put it somewhere people want to go to, not somewhere where they're leaving. If you look at the public transportation, it's always leaving downtown, never coming in. And as a person that takes the MTA, so first of all, put the high-speed rail somewhere people want to go. All right. Now, secondly, you don't have much money. Okay, here's the issue here. It says here, possible locations. Okay. Everybody's so happy because the magic subway to the sea, the speed rail, it's all coming, people, and you like to think in your mind all your traffic problems are going to be solved, except they don't even have locations. They're thinking about possible locations and doing a study. So 30 years, forget it. You ain't going to see nothing for 30 years. So here's my real issue here. I've been coming here for 3.5 years, and I hear every project, this is going to be a great multi-density luxury condo because we're building high-speed rail, and we're building all the transit projects, and it's going to be, everybody's going to come out of their apartments and jump on the high-speed rail and go to work, and it's going to be no traffic. Except you always build the condos first. You build the LA River first. You build the Wilshire District condo conversion madness first. You build everything first because you say you're going to have the high-speed rail. You say you're going to have the metro. But when I look at this right here, all I see is thinking about a study of possible locations. So let's have a moratorium on all density until they make this decision here. So please make a quick one because you're building a high-density madness conglomerate Dubai World 2, and it's going vacant, baby. And so the only saving grace of why we don't need all this high-speed rail is because people are leaving the city in droves due to your bad business, impossible living conditions, too much taxation, and so luckily everybody's leaving because nobody wants to be here. So I guess that's going to be your traffic solution. Thank you, Los Angeles.
But thankfully, Zuma Dog is staying, so that's a good thing. Matt Dowd is our next speaker. John Walsh will follow.
Thank you. Yes, that's not a bad idea. High-speed rail out of here. Believe me, settle all out these violations, the First Amendment, and I'll get on that train. Because we don't want to be here. But you guys are just tripping over yourselves with all this, high-speed rail authority, multiple sites for downtown. While we're talking about rail, I've mentioned it before, the number one priority is a goods rail line out of this city. Because the whole world is bringing their ships into the port down here at San Pedro, and they're polluting everything. And then all the trucks are polluting everything, carrying the goods. So forget about passengers. We're all got cars. We're all good. Everybody's good. Get some of those little dash buses. They're a way better thing. Nobody wants to go anywhere on a high-speed rail. Get the goods out of here.
John Walsh is our next speaker. After that is Bruce Darien in Van Nuys.
For the full high-speed rail story, go to HollywoodHighlands.org. The President of the United States got up when, that's the number one priority in transportation, high-speed rail. The only people who take high-speed rail are business travelers and a few tourists. Go to the magazine Mass Transit magazine. And that's a trade publication. They say right in there, high-speed rail will fail unless we can raid the trains for the business passenger. The business passenger wants to be on time. The business passenger will stay with planes, not with trains. And the President of the United States said, it is so much better, he said it to the camera. He said, because with high-speed rail, you won't have to take your shoes off. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Obama. Take a look at the huge train terrorist wreck that just happened last week. Is he telling terrorists that if they take high-speed rail, they don't have to go through security? The security at the terminals will be greater than the rail terminals, greater than the terminals at the airports. It is easy. Jesse James knew how to take out a train. It's the easiest. They're building something for no reason other than the number one thing, the iron horse. What's going to solve us according to secular humanism? Christians believe in Christ. Mohammedans believe in Muhammad. And secular humanist religions believe in light rail, charter schools, and medical marijuana clinics. That's what you'll get when you die. I'm telling you, HollywoodHighlands.org. I'm glad I won't live to see it.
Thank you very much. Our last speaker is Bruce Darien and Van Nuys.
Once again, good morning, City Council. Item number 22 here on the high-speed rail. How many passengers are ultimately going to be moved on this machinery? It's inline. We know that separate jets and aircraft in the air are moving in separate directions, but the rail is in one line. How many people can actually be moved on this? What is the cost? And what could be produced instead of this high-speed rail? I mean, I think all of us are for progress. There's no question. And holding back progress certainly isn't the thing to do. But at the cost to move people, is this appropriate? And where is rail systems, elevated rail systems, monorail systems? Has been at Disneyland for 50-plus years. And why don't we have it here, where we're moving a larger number of people through the town and through the state in a different way? We need shuttles to move masses of people and get the cars off the road. So this, I don't know how many $40 billion project that's certainly going to bring jobs, but at what cost to other projects? And I think that the big digs here in Los Angeles, the subway to the sea and others, what's the viability of that? How much per mile is it costing versus putting up people in the air? Most people would rather be looking at the sunshine and the trees than being underground like a mole. And the subway system here for Los Angeles, when we could have it elevated and people could be up looking at the sunshine, I think is a far better deal. So just because we have technology, we have the mag lift, and these trains can move at high speeds, what is the cost per passenger, and is it worth it? And not to say that we should be holding back technology here in Los Angeles, but what other technologies are being pushed aside because of special interests? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Darien. We'll recognize the maker of the motion first, Mr. Reyes, and Mr. Reyes will be followed by the man who called it special, Mr. Labange, and then we have Mr. Alarcon after that. Mr. Reyes is our first speaker. And we're taking colleagues 11 and 22 together.
Thank you, Council President. Colleagues, this is one of those occasions that really require us to focus on a citywide perspective. And that being said, I just want to put some matters in front of us and just clear the air as to the reasons for this resolution and actions from the Ad Hoc River Committee. One is that I am not objecting to or fighting a rail stop for the high-speed rail at Union Station. I am not fighting that. What I'm asking for is to give our city stakeholders the opportunity to engage in an environmental impact report that is warm and transparent and that gives us options. The options are critical because in every environmental impact report document, those stakeholders who would be affected should have the ability to understand their options. And I would rather have us do that now on the front end of the EIR process than in the back end. It would be much preferable for the following communities: Boyle Heights, the Arts District, Little Tokyo, Chinatown, Lincoln Heights, Elysian Valley, Cypress Park, Glassell Park, Atwater Village, City of Burbank, Sun Valley, Pacoima, City of San Fernando, Sylmar. All these cities, all these neighborhoods should have the benefit of having real answers and real conditions identified when we talk about a multi-billion-dollar project. Now, colleagues, I have started this dialogue, and it goes back to 2002. I can verify and prove to you my conversations with the Rail Authority that go back to 2005. It is now 2009. And still certain questions have yet to be answered. And I respect that because there are still solutions that need to be developed. And so I want to thank the High Speed Rail Authority, the MTA, the City Planning Department, and the other agencies, the CRA, that are now beginning to speak to each other and talk about this dynamic envelope, this corridor that this high-speed rail wants to take as it runs through our city. The benefit here, colleagues, is that if we can approach this project in a constructive way, it will put us on a national level to be competitive to attain major federal dollars that can implement a project that speaks to improvements at many different levels. When we just start with the foundation, the footprint of each structure that's going to hold up this facility, or if they go underground, which I've been told is a long shot, because it's akin to building a 4 to 6 freeway under the ground. That is what has been explained to me. On the other alternative, if it goes above ground, if you have noticed the high tension wires that run along the river, that is the height that has been expressed to me that would be needed to clear the 5 freeway, the Pasadena freeway, and other structures as it flows through our city. So if you imagine that type of monumental structure, then you talk about the engineering to deal with earthquake issues. We are talking about substantial safety conditions that we need to understand. But just as important, and yes, I've been told, well, Councilman, you're only worried about this because of the Alley River. Well, if we were to take a step back, why aren't we leveraging and why aren't we being strategic in addressing the circulation issues, the congestion issues? Because each bridge that they cross, each area of sensitivity like the river, like our corridors along our neighborhoods, have an amazing opportunity to improve what's there today. And that is what I'm trying to put on the table for us, so that we can say to the President that Los Angeles, California, has the ability to create jobs now because we have addressed these sensitive issues in a manner that has created relief for the city and has truly made us the city for the next century. Now imagine, colleagues, that we're talking about, and I've been told, 4 trains, 1 hour, one direction, 4 trains 1 hour the other direction. That's 8 passings through our neighborhoods an hour. This is a high-speed rail. So the sound impact, the impact of safety, how it starts, how it slows down, is very complicated. So why aren't we thinking, if Los Angeles, the second greatest, biggest city in the country, this should have the greatest Union Station for the state in Los Angeles. And we deserve that. We deserve that. Because this will be a major center for international, national trade as we influence our bosses, our constituents, our residents, our neighborhood stakeholders. So all I'm asking of the staff is to give us the opportunity through the EIR now, as you begin, the ability to understand how we could change our neighborhoods and our lives to create a benefit and not hardships in an area that has already suffered for too many years. So, colleagues, I ask for an aye vote on these resolutions. It's the beginning stage, but more importantly, it allows us to be informed, and it gives us the ability to stand before our constituents, with the neighborhood councils, the chambers, the business investment districts, our homeowner associations, our schools, our PTAs, and allow them to understand how this facility, this infrastructure, this huge, huge project can benefit the city. And I ask for an aye vote. I'd like to ask the planning department, the CRA, the CLA, would like to come to the table and answer a few questions. We also have the MTA with us and the High Speed Rail Authority. I'd like to see you as partners, so if you can come to the table. Council President, should it be just the city agencies, or should we have everything?
You can have the state agencies here. That's no problem. We're actually a little bit over on your opening time. Do you want to have them come back?
I'll come back and I'll just conclude, but I did want to ask them one question.
Okay, go ahead. Ask one question, then we'll go to the next speaker after.
Okay. And this is for the CLA. If you can summarize for this council what is before us and what this resolution is asking, and then perhaps I can trigger other conversations.
Yeah, item 11 is the Ad hoc River Committee and the CLA report on the resolution, which simply asks the High Speed Rail Authority to provide another EIR level analysis of another alternative, not just the one that they have proposed. So that's fairly straightforward. Item 22 is the communication from the ITGA committee on the planning report.
So to be clear, our directive to you, given the skill set and the toolbox we have in the city, to provide an alternative to just the one that's currently in the EIR.
Right.
But it does not mean that at this point that they have yet to accept that alternative in their EIR.
Right.
So our hope would be that the High Speed Rail Authority would see the wisdom in understanding the alternatives in their impact so that we could be in a place that allows us to support this project moving forward.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rosendahl actually pressed his button while we were waiting. Mr. Labange, pursuant to council rules, the committee chair will go before the person who called special. So Mr. Rosendahl and then Mr. Labange.
Mr. Labange, would you rather go? It's okay. I have no special prerogatives, but I am the chair of the Transportation Committee, and I obviously waived it out of committee because it's a no-brainer for me. Look, the Expo line, I got questions about where they're going to make the stops for the Expo line. We've been in litigation. We've been through issues. That's been held up. That's story one. Story two, Measure R. The Crenshaw line's coming through my Westchester area. Big community meeting. People want to know where it should go to be effective. High-speed rail, same story. The good news is this. Measure R, the people in L.A. County said, yes, we want to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to put $30 billion on the line. I want to create that infrastructure bank in Washington, another one in Sacramento, get loans on that $30 billion so we can accelerate all of Measure R over the next 10 years. Now we come to high-speed rail. All of us were in support of high-speed rail. In fact, I consider it also a no-brainer. The more we can get out of our car and get into mass transit, the better off our society is, the carbon footprint, and even our quality of life changes. So we got to get the high-speed rail going. And again, I'm 64. I want it in my lifetime. Hello. I'm tired of all this way out. But what Mr. Ed is saying is real clear to me. If we don't get our act together and go through an EIR and do all the right planning and do all the right thinking, there'll be lawsuits and it'll sit in somebody's judge's shelf for 20 years, okay? So that's the whole point of this discussion here, is to have a healthy interaction with the city of Los Angeles. It is the second largest city in the country, but it's a megalopolis of 25 million people here, and we're the biggest state in the union. And frankly, sometimes I wonder if the federal government understands us, since we donate $50 billion a year that we never get back. So what we need to do is tool ourselves up in such a way that the federal government banks us and supports us. Not the governor getting up and doing some ballyhooing of nothingness, but we need to be clear where these locations should be. So I'm 100% with my colleague, who's the chair of Plum Transportation, and Plum agree that we need serious community involvement, and we need to pick locations that are compatible to all of us in this great region. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Labange is our next speaker, to be followed by Mr. Alarcon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Reyes, I support this. It's very good that we look at this. I want to hear from the officials. I want to know, are you going to be reimbursing high-speed rail, the city, for the EIR, or what's the cost, et cetera, et cetera? Just give us an overview. Ms. Martinez, give us an overview where we are right now today on high-speed rail, December 2nd, 2009. Hold my time, Madam Clerk, please, Anna. And you can speak to the chair.
Okay. We are at a very exciting time. And
introduce yourself and your
I'm
title.
sorry. My name is Valerie Martinez, and I am with the California High-Speed Rail Authority. And we have had the pleasure of working very, very closely with your city staff, who are very talented and very engaged in this process. In fact, it is the High-Speed Rail Authority that is conducting the EIR, and we are doing so in collaboration, in conjunction with city staff, to ensure that the alignments, that the platform options that we're talking about in downtown LA, and that as funding continues, we are working in tandem. It is in line with what CLA wants, with the board, with what the council wants, with what planning is suggesting, and we are at the point right now where we are going to be releasing an admin draft in December, with a public draft to follow in the spring. That public draft, we anticipate, will
December,
have...
meaning this December right now?
Yes. That public draft, which will be released in the springtime for the Anaheim-Los Angeles section specifically, we anticipate will have 2 downtown Los Angeles station options. One of them is the station option you've seen in the past, which is a stacked option on top of the current Metrolink platform in downtown LA in Union Station. The second option is an option that has been developed through a working group approach with several different departments from the city of LA, including planning, including CLA, including engineering, including public housing, you name it. I believe they were there. And we have found, after looking at, I'd say, more than 30 different possibilities, a station platform option off Vignes that could potentially work. And we are going to, the High-Speed Rail Authority is going to include that option in the draft, the public draft document, so that it in fact can get the public viewing that the council is requesting, that Councilman Reyes has been promoting since 2002.
Great, Ms. Martinez. Thank you, Mr. Reyes, for inviting Mr. Clifford up. Mr. Clifford, you're with the MTA. Give us your overview. You're the executive officer of High-Speed Rail.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Alex Clifford, executive officer at MTA for High-Speed Rail. My position is a relatively new position. It is a position that is intended to help facilitate the arrival of high-speed rail in LA County and to coordinate with all of the cities and communities in the county along these corridors to help ensure that their concerns are addressed and that the impacts to the greatest extent are addressed or mitigated. A good example in the short term in this new position, we've pulled together the cities and the gateway cities between LA and Anaheim to work more closely with the High-Speed Rail Authority on the alignment. And throughout the month of October, we had the pleasure of working with your city family of departments to look at the LA Union Station in particular. I know they have a report that they'd like to give, so I don't want to preempt that, but I think we've come up with a good solution to help address the motion that is on the table.
Good. Does anyone from the planning department want to speak to that issue? Could hold my time.
Sure. Nick Marisich from the City Planning Department. I'm joined by Patricia Defender.
Nick, you got to speak into that.
Thank you. Nick Marisich from the City Planning Department. I'm joined by Patricia Defender also with City Planning. We prepared the report before you regarding our analysis of the high-speed rail alignment and station options for downtown Los Angeles. And most recently, we met with other city staff from the Bureau of Engineering, DOT, CRA, in a working group with Metro to assist in the process of identifying a viable station alternative at Union Station. This process has yielded an alternative along the east side of Patsoris Plaza, roughly along Vignes Street, which could minimize intrusion into communities to the north and south and possibly expand the capacity of the existing Union Station facility. This alternative may also support city policies for the promotion of economic development and the restoration of the LA River. With council approval, staff would like to ask the High-Speed Rail Authority to study the second station alternative in their draft environmental document, which is currently being prepared. And per the council motion, our report on this topic has the recommendations to direct staff to continue working with the High-Speed Rail Authority on the proposed alignments through the city, continue working with other city departments and Metro to further explore this possibility of a Union Station East Vignes Station option, which would be studied in addition to the Union Station aerial option that is proposed by the High-Speed Rail Authority, and to continue working with other city departments to provide a formal comment letter to the High-Speed Rail Authority on the project alternatives. Thank you.
Members, what is key here is how far it is away from the existing structure. Union Station built in 1939. Does anyone at the table know why we call it Union Station? It was a consolidation of the Santa Fe, the Southern Pacific, and the Union Pacific. There were three separate stations along what would be Santa Fe Avenue. They consolidated in one. They did displace a community of Chinatown. That's why you see signs in what on North Broadway call the new Chinatown. So that's what Union brought it together, Union Station at that point. All that infrastructure now is based on the last 30 years of work that brought the subway to that location. And the subway now is the feeder for the region, which will again be expanded. This concept of Vignes may be a great idea that should be vigorously pursued. Infrastructure of height is a concern to all. And I know working with the previous councilman of the 1st District, when I was at Water and Power, we brought infrastructure in through what was then the Cornfield Rail Yard that then raised high above and changed where with Felipe's was, etc., and caused some dynamic. This would be twice that high that has greater concerns. We got to look at that. But the key, members, that we got to always remember is we don't want to make the same mistake a previous council did, a previous body did, that left the green line out at Sepulveda and Imperial. That we want to be as close as we can to everything, because in other cities now we have an alignment of high-speed rail, of Metrolink type rail, regional rail, of local rail, and then a bus system, that it's all integrated. And this possibility, as Mr. Reyes has expressed, allows us to look at the river corridor, allows us to look at that very powerful lines of power that feed the city to possibly bury them, allow us to change that face of Los Angeles with that. Absolutely believe that it must go underground through Elysian Valley, through Cypress Park, through Taylor Yard to the west. A lot of work has been done to create state parks there, and consolidation of other rail lines such as the Union Pacific is a must of that. It's really important to look at as well. I stand to see that this project be done in our lifetime. Last question. When do we expect this planning process to be completed, that we'd be back for some decision?
A decision. Again, the public document will be released in spring of 2010. There will be public hearings at that point, and we are happy to work with the City of LA and Metro to ensure that the public hearings are appropriate to the City of LA.
And is the Planning Department and the CLA prepared to meet those deadlines?
Good afternoon, good morning, I think. Patricia Diefendorfer with the Planning Department. We are willing to work with the High Speed Rail Authority to do whatever it is, that is necessary. The High Speed Rail Authority is the lead agency, and they will be conducting the public hearings. I think our role will be to help ensure that they get the right stakeholders and that they, coordinate meetings in the neighborhoods appropriately.
And last question, what's the speed outside the city limits if you're in the Central Valley of California?
220 miles per hour,
And
sir.
what's the speed on San Fernando Road?
About 110 to 150
And what's the
miles
speed of
per hour.
Amtrak right now?
I would have
80, 85?
It's about
Okay.
somewhere
All
between.
right. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you all. We all
Thank
have
you,
to
Mr.
work
Labange.
together.
Mr. Alarcon is our next speaker.
It's all right. We didn't get it. Yeah.
Yes, I think the focus on the Union Station is essential. It will be the major hub in Los Angeles. But I just wanted to add that I would like to see a little bit more of the notion of the other stations throughout the city, particularly the one that is proposed for Sylmar, in line with Mr. Reyes's comments. So I would like to add a friendly amendment that the consultant's scope of work for review and analysis to be studied include the outlying stations, not just the Union Station, and that we have more information, particularly for the Sylmar station. I also wanted to ask to what extent the CRA is involved, because I think that these projects are more likely to be successful if we create synergies. And the resources that we have in the Northeast San Fernando Valley for potential use of CRA economic development money to embellish the opportunities at the station might make it more amenable to the community and also produce a better product. So I wanted to ask, is the CRA part of the city's working group?
Patricia Diefendorfer, Department of City Planning. Yes, the CRA has been part of the working group giving input on this process, and we expect to continue to look at the alignments and the stations to the north. Obviously, Union Station was most pressing because that's the first EIR that is coming out. We can expect to continue to do similar work to look at the entire alignment and stations throughout the city, and the CRA hasn't been involved in those conversations.
Councilmember, we are currently conducting study sessions with planning and with the CRA, specifically the team that works specifically in the San Fernando Valley, for instance. We are looking at 3 station options in that particular area, one in Sylmar, a station option in Sylmar, a station option in San Fernando, and another station option in the Santa Clarita area. We're running a number of different models, both from the standpoint of operations as well as number of ridership to determine exactly which of the stations would be optimal. At that point, we're going
Sylmar.
At that point, we're going to place it, and we have had numerous conversations, and we want to continue to have numerous conversations with your staff
Sylmar.
to ensure that it is placed in exactly the right spot, sir.
It doesn't need to be anywhere but Sylmar.
We will go ahead and share our modeling information with you, and I'm sure that you will be pleased with what you see.
I'm asking city staff if you are focusing on Sylmar.
Patricia Diefendorfer's Planning Department. There are other city staff that work on that particular area, but yes, we will be continuing to look at that.
Okay, I'm making a friendly amendment to incorporate the outlying stations into whatever scope of work contract that we are approving today. I am dead serious. We need to fight for the city of Los Angeles first. Let the other jurisdictions put up the money. Let the other jurisdictions provide CRA funding. But we are here, city staff is here to produce for the city of Los Angeles, and I expect that result. I'm not going to support projects that are going outside the city, creating jobs in other jurisdictions when they are based primarily on concerns about the city of Los Angeles, and I hope the Commission hears me.
Thank you, Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you. First, I just want to wanted to rise and thank Mr. Reyes for his great work. And I've known that, and I think it's an important clarification. I wanted to be another person clarifying it publicly that Mr. Reyes has been very supportive. He's been one of the champions of high-speed rail. Those communities that he named in the Northeast, we share on both sides of the river. Elysian Valley is just over the river. From Cypress Park, and of course once we get into Atwater Village that becomes my district as well. So I share the same concerns that he has, but I've been very impressed as well by this city, by the high-speed rail and our application in moving forward with the Obama administration. I was proud to stand with our governor and with the speaker and others when we announced that application, because we really have put more money where our mouths are than anybody else in this country, and that's a really important opportunity. We can do, it's not an either or, we can do both things we need, which is good planning at the same time we're doing good rail. Because, as everybody's been articulating, if we fail to do good planning around good rail, then the rail will fail. And if we don't have good rail around good planning, then people will still be stuck where they are. So it's really critical for us to integrate those two things together. The opportunities for us to see with the Los Angeles River Project, one of the things that's been bad for trains has been the LA River, and one of the things that's been bad for the LA River has been trains. It's nice for them to see each other, but where we have the opportunity to use that undergrounding and to make that something that becomes then public space, I think is a real opportunity, and I know Mr. Reyes is going to champion that with all the people that are at the table, and that's where the city has been on record and where we're coming from. If you look at our master plan, this is perhaps the best opportunity for all the different projects that we have along the river to really do that signature project downtown at the same time that we make rail something attractive. We have folks on the west side right now who are not coming to the Philharmonic anymore downtown because of traffic. We need to make sure that people have a positive way that they will come to a Union Station to actually board the rail. So our connector pieces are critical to that as well, to be able to come straight from the airport to Union Station, to be able to use that. And in the future, even if we don't have Los Angeles International Airport as our main airport, we may have that linked by high-speed rail, and we should be thinking that through on the way out of town, where, like Denver, Shanghai, Hong Kong, most great cities, Seoul, increasingly they're moving their airports away, but they are always linked by high-speed rail. So this is really not just a 20-year opportunity, this is a 100-year opportunity. So I rise in strong support of Mr. Reyes and these motions. I know that they do not exclude anything in the work that we've been doing with the high-speed rail, and it just bears us all standing together in a unified voice every time that we can as our federal friends are looking through those applications, because we hope we get that full amount. We deserve that full amount, Californians do, because we voted for it. We put our own pocketbooks forward first, and we should get the reward of those matching funds as well. And so we look forward to some good news out of Washington, hopefully soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you, Councilman Garcetti. Colleagues, thank you for your comment. And Councilman Alarcon, you're absolutely right. We need to advocate for the city's interest, so I gladly second that motion. When I had this conversation with Councilman Huizar, who unfortunately is not here, there's a significant issue because Union Station is in his district. And there are some significant issues that come in through the areas of Councilmember Perry's district, the Arts District, and Little Tokyo. The pivotal point here and is understanding what this future can look like and understanding how confined that area is. So in our request for options, we should be opening our eyes to what could be. If you look at Chicago and Millennium Park, they had the foresight to build a park over the maintenance yards, to create a green space and celebrate the core of their city and bring back to life an amazing center that spoke to multiple purposes and multiple benefits in one site. And that is the talent we have in front of us. With the CRA, the Planning Department, MTA, and the Cooperation of High-Speed Rail Authority, we have that ability to provide a scenario that does take us to the next century, understanding what's already been done in other cities that have the daring to explore a scenario that can be of that grandeur. And that's what we're seeking. We need the jobs, the union jobs, the private sector jobs that are right now in peril. If we do not listen to our communities, if we do not address those issues that prevents us from getting sued, it's something that we should take very seriously. And so, Ms. Martinez, I want to be very clear. Is the High-Speed Rail Authority committing to include a second alternative in their draft EIR, because that's the purpose of this action, because we have yet to get an answer that says, yes, we will do it. For the past 4 to 5 years, I've been given every answer but a yes. And so I'm asking you directly, for the record, in full exposure to everyone at stake. Are you going to include a second alternative in the draft EIR?
We have worked very, very hard with the City of LA, with Metro, and with, frankly, council staff to develop another option. We have looked at many, many alternatives. The first alternative, obviously, we were looking at was the stacked option over Union Station. Yes, sir, we are going to be looking at a second option in our public document per your request, per the request of City Council, to ensure that the public has an opportunity to look at two options equally. And I have also, as I've talked to the city, been told that in fact there is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there is no preference for either option. You truly want to look at both options equally, and that's what we're happy to do, sir.
I'm following your words very carefully. I asked you
that would be a yes.
Specifically, yes, we will include a second alternative in the draft EIR.
Yes, we will, and like I said, I've been working with city staff and with council staff as well to ensure that they're clear on the process that we're undertaking to make sure that happens.
So we're past the looking phase. We are now committing to second draft EIR.
We will have
a second alternative.
We will have a second alternative, and it's a second platform option in LA Union Station, because Prop 1A says it needs to be in the LA Union Station envelope. So one will be a Vignes option, one will be a stacked option. Yes, sir, there will be two options that your community will be able to look at and determine how each of those impacts the communities as they approach.
Last technical detail.
Yes, sir.
And I want to make sure the communities north of Union Station are aware of this. Of the two draft EIR alternatives, you are also allowing for these communities to understand the impact once it leaves the station, even though the existing EIR does not include that area.
Absolutely.
Now, would it be possible to include that area in the current scope of the EIR?
There are some legalities, but what we have done is commit to you as an authority that the first section of the LA Palmdale section, the first segment, which is LA Union Station to the 134, that alternatives analysis and that portion of the EIR will be tracking alongside the Anaheim LA section for the very reason that you're speaking of, cumulative impacts. We want to ensure that we are clearly aware of what the environmental impacts are to the neighborhoods north of Union Station in addition to south of Union Station, because we understand that wherever Union Station is placed, communities around the station will feel the impacts of the train, and we want to make sure that where we can, we improve that condition.
Colleagues, I thank you for your support. I thank every member here that's at the table, because in your hands lies a unique opportunity to create a facility that should last the next 100 years. But let's do it with the understanding that we can create relief and improvements that if we were to leverage what each one has to offer here, can create a grand Union Station for the state of California without having the communities to bear the burden on their backs. So thank you very much.
Mr. Alarcon for a second time, and Mr. Labange for a second time.
I'm a big supporter of high-speed rail. I had the opportunity to ride it in France. And I just think that our country needs to get on board with this technology that is now decades old. The So I applaud the Obama administration for setting aside some funds, almost as much as California set aside. The voters of California put aside more money than the entire federal government did. So that speaks to our commitment to high-speed rail, but it also speaks to the administration's commitment to high-speed rail, and hopefully will put us in first position. But I am deeply concerned when I'm hearing that communities that have far less density, far fewer constituents, may surpass the high-dense areas in the city of Los Angeles. Now, to put it in context, there ain't going to be a high-speed rail in California if there is no downtown connection in Los Angeles. But equally part of the constituency base of the city of Los Angeles are the outlying areas of the city of Los Angeles. I want to make it very clear, I cannot support a downtown station that excludes 1.7 million people in the San Fernando Valley, where we have some of the highest congested areas in the nation on the Ventura Corridor and the fastest growing density in the northeast San Fernando Valley. So while I support the concept, if we don't get a station in the San Fernando Valley designated quickly, you're going to lose my support. And I believe you'll lose the support of the San Fernando Valley as well. Because there's no reason why we shouldn't have that connector, that hub, that sub-hub, if you will, in the northeast San Fernando Valley. I need for staff to understand that my motion is to get that thing going, get that project up to speed so that they are on parallel planes, that we're not waiting until other things go on to make sure that there's a Northeast Valley designation. I'm willing to work with the city of San Fernando, but frankly, they don't have the resources that the city of Los Angeles does. I'm willing to work with them as a partner, but I can't imagine that they would have the resources to be able to put it together in San Fernando alone. We have the Sylmar station for the Metrolink. There's no reason why we shouldn't have the high-speed rail and all the other things that come with it. We have the CRA program with millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars in future support for community economic development around the station. We have a line coming from the MTA that should have been there 5 years ago, but we now have an administration over there that is working with us to get the red line over there. And frankly, I'd like to see a subway someday, but I'll probably be dead when that happens. But the point is, the Sylmar area needs to be given higher priority from my perspective in this process, and I would appreciate support of this motion. I think, frankly, it will build union in the city of Los Angeles that's greatly needed for this project to ultimately prevail.
Mr. LaBonge.
This is very good discussion. I know, Mr. Reyes, this is, as you articulated, this is just from Anaheim to Los Angeles, and now we got it up to the 134. All this is real important, because there is supposed to be a station stop at the Bob Hope Airport in Burbank.
Yes, there is.
And the question that it asked to serve the San Fernando Valley, does that satisfy the needs of the San Fernando Valley? Does it satisfy, there'd be two. So you're looking for a northwest San Fernando Valley, which is extremely important.
There will be a station. We're committing to a station in Burbank. Not in Burbank, and then one in the San Fernando Valley, either in Sylmar, San Fernando, or in Santa Clarita. I understand. We need to go through the environmental process, and as part of the environmental process, we need to look at all three equally.
Good. And then also that station at the Burbank Airport, or the Bob Hope Airport, may be, in fact, in Los Angeles on the San Fernando side of the tracks. Correct. So if on that issue there, this will be another time for another discussion, but I think it's absolutely important, because the line will then go from what would be the San Fernando corridor through the 14 corridor to Palmdale. Clifford, Mr. Clifford?
My understanding of the alignment is that above Sylmar, it starts to stray away from the existing Metrolink alignment because of curvature issues and right-of-way issues. So there'll be some tunneling. There'll be there's actually several proposed alignments outside the existing Metro-owned right-of-way that Metrolink and UP operate on.
Right, and I think that's because if I remember when I was on the MTA board, this was some early discussions there, that it leads what is the traditional Southern Pacific line, which goes through Soledad Canyon and Vasquez Rocks, and then would have to maybe come up on the 14, or maybe even, I don't know if there's any right-of-way. The one thing we all got to remember, there's a right-of-way that's there for 100 years. And I absolutely am imperative, I'm looking at Maria right now, that on our website, we should announce to the world that there's a discussion about high-speed rail, because impactful construction takes place on these projects. When Water Power puts in a big trunk line, it's impactful, important, needed, but at the same time, it takes years to plan and do, and then when it comes, they think, well, why didn't anybody tell me? We have to inform everybody on this time. But it's absolutely imperative, too, as said, you're looking at both what would be traditional Union Station of the track system that's there now, which Metrolink has, and east of the MTA building between Piper Tech and that. That's your second thing. Does that satisfy Mr. Reyes? Is that enough, or is there more? If I could ask Mr. Reyes, hold my time for a second.
Boy, yeah, it's a loaded question, Councilman. You know, I'll be real blunt with you. I think that's the minimum that should be done. But there's an area on the other side of the river called the piggyback yard. It's storage right now. It's surface use.
Mission Road.
Mission Road. Now just imagine if we could dream that that became the Union Station for the state. And that became the center where we had shuttles and buses and connectivity to Union Station so that we can have the space to grow into, the parking needed, the park and ride lots. Where are the people going to park when they come to this facility? Now we say they should be using the GO line. They should be using all the electric lines coming in. And that would be ideal. But the fact is, what inhibits them from using it is the lack of parking. So if we had a blank check, if we had the ability to engineer this, we could build a Millennium Park over by Mission Road. We can do a multiplicity of benefits and connect with Union Station, connect the maintenance yards for the future light rail lines, which is a concept that's been discussed, and that would be my wishful thinking. But it seems that the powers that be are trying to confine it just around Union Station, and that to me is a shortcoming, but I understand my realities, that this could be too controversial, and that it would take away our ability to compete nationally for these federal dollars. But that would be my wishful thinking. But it is what it is. If all they're going to give us is two alternatives, because they say that's all they can do, then that's what I guess we have to accept. But the third alternative would be to look at that Mission Road yard and explore that opportunity to a degree that really moves us for the next 100 years.
Okay. At the same time, if you look too at the 4th to 1st Street above the subway, where the subway sleeps at night, you know where that is? Above that point there, because then you could still connect to the subway. The challenge we have is to try to be, if I could use this microphone, this is the elevator that takes us from whatever level it is. And in other cities, it's all on top. And I greatly appreciate what Mr. Reyes says, too, because I think that area of Los Angeles, the Mission Road area, the old piggyback, which historically had been a rail yard, could be transformed and bring the city together as well. So all these are important to look at. But it's important that we focus and that we let the public know and that we are going to be coming back to make a heavier decision in the months ahead. It is impactful, but look at the impact of the 4-level interchange where Tony Valdez used to live. The Fox 11 reporter, he'll tell you about the displacement, but where would we be without the 4-level? Where would we be without the freeway system that drove us, which really has to be transformed in a rail system? And the rail system, which is so important as we connect cities. These are not in outlying areas like an airport out in Westchester. It will transform how we do business. It will make a wonderful existence for us, but we absolutely have to do it right. And we absolutely have to inform people. So we look forward to working with all of us to try to come up with the best results, because as Mr. Garcetti said so eloquently, it is a 100-year decision. Thank you, Mr. President, and all members of the council.
Thank you. Mr. Alarcon and then Mr. Reyes.
I don't want to harp on this too much, but I do want to make the point. I'm not, I've never been accused of being anything less than hyperbolic. But in this case, I want to clarify. According to the 2005 EIR, what is the preferred station in the San Fernando, Santa Clarita areas?
It is the Sylmar Station option.
Okay, according to the 2007 staff recommendation to the authority board, what is the preferred alternative for the San Fernando Valley, Santa Clarita area?
The 2007
I'll show you this
recommendation
if you want.
is, in fact, we are looking at all three stations, but the preferred is the Sylmar Station option.
Okay, so I'm not blowing smoke, folks. The preferred site is Sylmar. I didn't appreciate the way it was presented because it was stated as if it was an equal alternative. It is not. There's no reason why Supervisor Antonovich should have a station in Burbank and a station in Santa Clarita if I can speak in a different language. I think they should be shared with the supervisors, and Mr. Yaroslavsky deserves a station as well, and so does Councilman Alarcon. The bottom line is that the preferred route and station is designated to this date, before the voters voted on it, under their consideration, was Sylmar. So that should be the priority, and I'm indicating to staff that I expect the work to meet that priority, because priorities can change with politics. I don't want to lose this one politically or based on poor staff work. And as we are considering more dense routes on the MTA system, particularly the bus system, I think that we need to incorporate these features into our considerations as we go through this. I support Mr. Reyes's leadership on this issue. We have to have it in the downtown area someplace. That's for the benefit of all of California. But at the same time, we do have a responsibility to serve all the constituents of Los Angeles. And I'll be damned if the people from Sylmar and the people from the West Valley are going to have to go all the way to Burbank or downtown to catch the high-speed rail when this city is investing so much time, energy, and dollars.
And Mr. Reyes, to conclude.
Colleagues, I ask for a yes vote.
Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Thank you all for your time. 11 and 22 both will pass with amendments. Those are accepted as friendly. We have two requests to take items out of order. First, Ms. Hahn, I think you have some police officers that are standing by in San Pedro.
Yes.
So I'd like to recognize you on item 26, and then we'll do special one after that. Actually, if we could just take up the one ord, number 7, now that we have 12 members as well. Let's just take a quick vote on that, and then Ms. Hahn can take up 26. Please open the roll on 7, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, 26, Ms. Hahn.
Thank you, Mr. President, and colleagues, thank you for allowing me to take this out of order. We do have a family who has lost one of their loved ones. We have police officers, I believe, standing by in San Pedro. This is a reward motion, and this is for David Medina, who was only 45 years of age. And on Tuesday, July 21st of this year at approximately 9:45 p.m., David was walking southbound on the east sidewalk of Mesa Street between 17th and 18th Street in San Pedro, and an unknown suspect approached him, fired one shot, striking him in the upper torso. Mr. Medina collapsed to the ground, and the unknown suspect fled the location in an unknown direction. Mr. Medina was pronounced dead at Harbor UCLA Hospital at 11:15 that night. The investigation has no leads. Mr. Medina was left, unfortunately, laying in the street for approximately 20 minutes before someone called the police. I hope that what we're offering today, which is $50,000, will help the investigation move forward, encourage someone to come forward who may know something. And when we do these rewards, colleagues, you know, this is because the police department has exhausted their leads and feels like this is what they need for someone to have the courage, and sometimes it takes $50,000 for someone to have the courage to come forward and tell what they know. We always believe that someone, somewhere, saw something, heard something, either that night or has since maybe heard someone talking, and that someone knows who did this. And for the sake of the family, for the sake of justice, we are asking that maybe this $50,000 be offered so that someone will come forward. We have, I believe, in San Pedro, at this time, the family members. We have Ike Medina, who is the father, Connie Medina, who's the mother, Linda Medina, the sister, and Mary Medina, a sister. If they would like to speak now, I think that's appropriate.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience to the Medina family, and if we could please direct our attention to them. The microphone is yours. Thank you.
I want to wish everybody a good morning. I'm here on behalf of my son, David Medina. I wish this reward would bring closure to whoever did this. Every day I get a phone call with a tear in their eye telling me about my son. And it's been very hard to live with since July 21st. I hope that it will come to closure quick. Thank you, and good morning.
Thank you. Would anybody else from the family like to speak, Mr. Medina, this morning? Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
We really want to thank... Oh, does somebody else...
Go ahead, please.
Sister, go ahead. Please go ahead and talk. I think it helps people to see the family.
My brother, he was my father and mother's only son, and he was our only brother. And what my dad really wants to do is, hopefully this will bring some justice to get this person off the streets, and so this won't happen to anybody else. So please consider this reward for our family and for the other families in San Pedro. Thank you.
I really do want to thank the family for taking the time to have their voice here. Again, we sometimes hear about these cases, we read the statistics, but it's always important for us to see that every life that has been taken has a family, has loved ones, that their lives have also been completely torn apart. And I was wondering if Officer Fernando Rivas or Officer Eddie Yoon, are you in San Pedro, and would you like to give us information about where people can call to give information on this murder?
Yes, good morning, City Council. My name is Officer Fernando Rivas with Los Angeles Police Department, Harbor Division, working the homicide unit. Anybody that has any information, you can reach us at 310-726-7881. And like we mentioned earlier, we've exhausted all our means on this case, and we haven't come up with any positive leads, so we're asking for the community's help.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I ask that we have a yes vote on this today, and to remind people that they can call 310-726-7881 if anyone, anywhere, has any information on the senseless killing of David Medina. This is for his family and certainly for all of us who want to bring this person to justice, get them off the street before they do this again. So, colleagues, I ask that you give me an aye vote for this $50,000 reward.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the detective and to the Medina family. And thank you, Ms. Hahn. We can open the roll on the reward, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That is approved, and we'll send that forthwith to the mayor for his immediate signature. We're going to take Mr. Rosenthal's item next, but Mr. Zion has an introduction.
Just introduction. Thank you, Mr. President. Mayor Reardon joining us this morning to say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Go ahead. Say a couple words.
thank you very much. Thank you, City Council, Mr. President. LA is still the greatest city in the world, right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Kathy Riboli, would you like to come forward? I know you put in a card on item 11, and we had a hearing on item 11 already, but we took 11 and 22 together. So just as a last comment on the high-speed rail, Ms. Riboli, we'd love to hear your comments, and then we'll recognize Mr. Rosendahl for the special one.
Good morning,
Sorry about that. Good morning.
Council members. My name is Kathy Riboli, and our family has sent me on behalf of the speed rail because we were just informed a few weeks ago of its impact on our family business. For many of you, you know we've been in Lincoln Heights for over 92 years. We're a family business, and we have properties right near the river. We don't object to the rail line, but we do feel that by the current diagram, the current plan, it does cut right through our property. And we worked really hard. We have been there. We're a fabric in LA, and we do need your support to take us into consideration. My mom works, my dad, these folks are 88 years old. It's their love. And we really feel we need more internal meetings and more options because we want to stay in Lincoln Heights. Thank you very much, and we really appreciate this last opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Our apologies before, and we love San Antonio Winery. Thank you very much. Mr. Rosendahl, as a special one he's put before us, we have to make the findings, Mr.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We've circulated among the members.
So before the substance of it, just we have to make the findings that this came to our attention before or after the posting of the agenda. So this came to your attention late, and we were able to then put in, pursuant to Rule 23, a motion on this. Is that correct?
Right, and thank you very much for explaining that there.
Let's take a vote on that just to make the findings, okay? If we can please open the roll on the findings, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Okay, the findings have now been approved. So, Mr. Rosendahl, I'll recognize you as the maker of the motion.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Timing is everything in this world, and you know, what we need as a planet is obviously peace. We should be investing in health care, education, infrastructure. We should be working around the planet in creating opportunities for people, economic opportunities, community opportunities. We should not be creating or participating in wars. They are not getting us anywhere but more problems on the planet. And what we would like to do is present a resolution, I know there's a bunch of people who want to speak, which talks about the World March for Peace and Nonviolence. Your concerted efforts of the folks here in the room, with 1 million people in over 90 countries around the world who support the eradication of nuclear arms, war in all forms of violence, represents the deepest hopes of all people and remains humanity's guiding inspiration. The citizens of Los Angeles share a belief that if communities respect one another and unite in peace, we can eliminate the violence that has taken hold of our neighborhoods. Thank you for your dedication to this issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank
we have
you.
a bunch of speakers on this. Come on up to the mics. Come on up to the mics over there. Over there.
Mr. Koretz, do you want to speak before Mr. Koretz? Mr. Koretz, would you like to be heard before the speakers, or would you like to after? Okay. All right. We have Dr. Blaise Bonpane and Jody Evans, first two speakers.
And I might say about Blaise Bonpane, he's the founder of the Office of America's Folks. He's been doing this for many years. He has been fighting for basic peace on this earth. He's a tremendous contributor. Thank you, Blaise Bonpane, for being here, too.
Good morning, council members.
Good morning.
And thank you, Bill, for inviting us. We're very honored today to have some of the actual marchers on this great march around the world. We're talking about 93 days, 99,000 miles, 7 continents, started October 2nd in New Zealand on the birthday of Mahatma Gandhi, and will conclude in the Argentine Andes, and the huge numbers of heads of state, Nobel laureates, congressional people, and internationally known celebrities are promoting this march. The World March promotes the Nobel Charter for a World Without Violence. It also carrying the abolition flame to promote nuclear abolition and peace through nuclear disarmament. This march calls for the end of all violence, physical, economic, racial, psychological, sexual, and religious. We marchers ask you to support us unanimously in the quest for the end of the war system and to understand that the realists of the world know that we'll either have nonviolence or non-existence.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Is Jody Evans still here? Is Jody Evans still here? Did Jody have to go? Is Jody Evans here?
She had to go.
Okay. Tony Robinson, and then Mickey Hirsch.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, thank you very much for welcoming the World March for Peace and Nonviolence. I come along with Mickey as representatives of a base team, plus we have some more friends here. We started the World March on the 2nd of October in New Zealand. We have been through Asia, Oceania, Asia, Europe, Africa before arriving here a couple of days ago. It's fantastic that we receive a commendation today from the Council. We're very happy for that, calling on Los Angeles to call this day the Day of Peace and Nonviolence in Los Angeles. This is fantastic. We believe very much in the power of education. We believe that nonviolence should be taught to children in schools. If we can start with our children, we can create a consciousness which rejects violence in all its forms. This for us is very important. We would like you people here, you folks, have got an opportunity to teach the children. Please do so. That way we can change the world. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Robinson. Mickey Hirsch is our next speaker. After that is Koryanka Kilcher.
Thank you very much for receiving us here. I guess I'm speaking to all citizens of Los Angeles when I speak to you. So basically, the objective of our World March for Peace and Nonviolence is to create a new consciousness. Some years ago, a new consciousness was starting to arise to protect our planet. And somehow it became something real. Now we are taking care of our planet in a better way than we did 30 years ago. So now we want to create a new consciousness to take care of humanity. We've forgotten about the human being. So we call you, the Angelinos, and all the people in the United States and in the world to really start thinking that there's no way of protecting our planet if we don't protect ourselves, humanity. So that's the whole issue with the World March for Peace and Nonviolence. Let's take care of ourselves. Let's take care of humanity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Koryanka Kilcher is our next speaker. Come on forward. And after that is Anthony Chavez. Hello.
Well, I just want to say, as a young person, it's my hope that today be known as World Peace Day because peace is an important concept for all of us to hold dear to us. Because every penny that we spend on war is a penny less spent investing into our children and therefore into the future of our great nation. And early on in schools, we learn how to have peaceful, meaningful dialogue rather than acts of violence. And nonviolence and peace is of global importance to all of us as humanity. And I really hope that today we can have a global warming of hearts and climate change and shift in our human consciousness. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much. Anthony Chavez is our next speaker. Anthony Chavez. After that is Judy Foote.
Thank you, council members. Today's World March for Peace is about people from around the globe coming together to be a part of something big while doing something small. It's just like my tata, my grandfather Cesar Chavez said, organizing is a simple task of helping ordinary people to do the extraordinary things we're all capable of. My grandfather also spoke out strongly against the Vietnam War in the 60s and for gay rights in the 70s, when these were not popular stands among his own people. If Cesar Chavez was alive today, he would be standing right here with all of us. Seeking peace is not only a mission in the political world. Peace is also a quest that begins from within. Peace is not just the absence of war. Too many people are victimized in their own minds and hearts. And when they react against resentment, the hurt becomes anger, and the anger turns into violence. We need to transform people from within, beginning with ourselves, building self-respect, rejecting division, and embracing unity through diversity in our communities. So as we march today, let's take one step for peace within ourselves and one step for peace in the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have Zuma Dog. And I'm sorry, just as a reminder, and we can't, if we make certain exceptions, we have to make them all the time. We can't have banners up in the council chambers, but we are with you in spirit. Zuma Dog is our next speaker, then Hendy Foot.
Excuse me. Yes. First of all, thank you to these people for being here, these fine people who I'm so happy you're here. We're talking about something very important, peace. We always talk about what governments do regarding peace. There is collective consciousness, and it's become something I've become very aware of in my life recently as I've come down to City Hall every day. I had nothing to do. I say, well, gee, at least I can take some time, come down to City Hall, and I've met so many great people, that so much diversity in my life, and I've learned so much. And that alone, every day, wake up. If you don't have anything to do today, try to do something for the benefit of somebody who might even despise you. Somebody, if you see a bum that you know is just about to ask you for some money, and you go, they're just going to use it to buy alcohol. Well, so what? Give them a miracle. Pull out $1 and say, here, do you need $1? You know they're going to ask you anyway. Those are the types of things that you will be rewarded for good karma and collective consciousness. You've heard Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, Deepak Chopra, and I didn't understand it at all, but it is true. So think about that a little bit today.
Thank you, Mr. Dog. Hendy Foot.
I'd like to politely request the floor for the Honorable Consul of Croatia, one of the states supporting us.
We'll get him. Just 1 second. We have one more speaker before you. Consul General, if you'll just wait 1 second, we'll get you. Don't worry. Hendy Foot, we had called before, and then we'll hear from the Consul General.
You know, the other day I turned on the TV, and I couldn't believe what I see, because the newsmen say them PLO the enemy, but she was only 3, and that don't look like no PLO to me. And neither did Rachel Corrie or that little kid Ali. He lost his limbs and his whole family. Ali incoming free. Yeah, man, you know, it made me start to cry watching little babies die. If you see teardrops in my eyes, it's because it took me by surprise. All the mess in the Middle East, all the unrest and stress is prophesied to increase. And they're killing babies in the name of God and peace. And you know, she looked just like my little niece. And little Muhammad was cute, but Muhammad and Ali were playing in Baghdad, Beirut. Two little bullets in his little suit. His mama cried, don't shoot, don't shoot. Yeah, man, don't it make you want to cry? Watching little babies die, they're shooting rockets through the sky. Tell me why, tell me why. Rockets kill and maim, they shocking all the sick, the young, the lame. Don't they know that killing is a shame? It's murder all the same, and they're killing in, oh my God's name. Hey brother, don't it make you want to cry? Hey suckers watching little babies die. Hey Father who art in the sky. Hey Lord of mercy, tell me why, tell me why.
Thank you. And our last speaker, Consul General, if you'd like to come forward. A very good morning to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to convey the support and endorsement of the President of the Republic of Croatia, Mr. Stipe Mesic, for this World March of Nonviolence and Peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We will now return to our speakers from the Council. Our first speaker is Councilmember Koretz, and then Councilwoman Hahn will follow. Mr. Koretz.
Well, this is unbelievable. I mean, the idea of a world march against violence, I think is a great idea. And I'm proud that we're declaring this a Los Angeles Day of Nonviolence. And whether or not this march continues in the future, I think it would be a great idea for this to be an annual event in Los Angeles. I mean, nonviolence is a goal of all people. It's something we can all aspire to. It's something that means a lot to me. Personally, I've spent more than my whole adult life and some of my teenage years working specifically on the issue of gun violence. And I also am proud to see here a relative of Cesar Chavez. I was proud almost 25 years ago to invite Cesar Chavez to the West Hollywood City Council, and as one of the first things we did as a city, we asked him to come and speak on the Grape Boycott, and became the first city on the West Coast to support that. And he is always one of my heroes and one of the giants of the nonviolence movement. So I thank you for being here, and I thank you for this whole concept. This is just incredible. Maybe it'll catch on, and maybe it'll actually move us towards a world without the kind of violence we see now. Thank you so much for everything you're all doing.
Thank you, Mr. Koretz. Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I just really wanted to stand today and rise to support what you're doing, and really thank you. It's great to see our Consul General, who just retired, representing Croatia, a beautiful, beautiful country which has spent so many years being war-torn. And if anybody knows the value of peace, it's those who have lived and died in Croatia. But what you're doing is so, so important, and I was thinking, what a great idea to go worldwide and march for peace, but really it starts right here in our own city, in our own neighborhoods, in our own backyards. I was so horrified this morning watching the news about a young teenager who committed suicide because she had been bullied. She had been bullied in school, and it was so pervasive that she could not take it anymore. And I'm thinking that's where we have to start, is with our young people, and teach them that those kinds of actions are just not who we are as a human race. And I know many of us around here have spent our time trying to keep kids from joining gangs. And we know, though, that we don't have a chance unless we provide them great after-school opportunities and tutoring and mentoring and art and music and drama. And those are the things that have been taken away. We've made budget cuts that, in my opinion, are going to lead kids away from a life of peace and a life that may end up in violence and death. So what you're doing today is so beautiful and so important at this time of the year when many of us celebrate a peaceful time, Christmas. Many of us celebrate the birth of the Prince of Peace. And I just want to thank you for what you're doing. I know you're going to make a difference. What is the saying? You can't underestimate what a small, committed group of people can actually do to change the world. And that's who you are right now.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. Mr. Alarcon.
When I was attending Cal State Northridge in the 70s, the peace movement was strong and healthy, and we were, of course, trying to put an end to the Vietnam War. And so it's good to see that that movement is hopefully reemerging and will be stronger, but with the same kind of passion that we had. Fundamental to the notion of peace was a notion that we often forget about, and that is a conversion of our economy to a peacemaking economy, changing Lockheed from a war-producing machine to a high-speed rail-producing machine. And so many of the themes that I've incorporated into my agenda over the last 17 years as an elected official have been related to that. Meeting with the Clinton administration to get them to use commerce dollars to improve our environment. Working on the Green Seal program for the City of Los Angeles to convert our hotels and restaurants into green industries and get recognition for it, and so much more. But I wanted to point out that I learned about economic conversion at Cal State Northridge from Professor Blaise Bonpane, and I wanted to thank him Blaise for staying true to the message. The message of peace is a consistent message. It is a message that was needed then, is needed now, and will always be needed. We should never make decisions to create war on the basis of economic opportunity. And yet, I fear that we fall into that trap far too often, including perhaps in the last 24 hours. So I urge you to expand the movement, count us in. We believe in peace, but more importantly, we believe that we have to work for it, and you don't get anything easy. So congratulations to all of you, continued success, and let's create peace in our world. Thank you.
Mr. Labange.
Mr. Rosendahl, I salute you for this, as you brought this distinguished group in. And Mr. Alarcon, I love the way you recognize your professor, because there's people who've taught us wherever they are. My mentor was Milt Davis, who was a great teacher, educator at Los Angeles City College, coach at Marshall High. But all of you together, and as Janice Hahn spoke so eloquently on the first step of a small group, Committed Souls, work forward, it's very special. But I think there's someone very special that I want to recognize. He's in the back. He should be in the front. He's a gold medal winner from the 1964 Games in Tokyo. He's an educator, Ulysses Williams. Get up here, Ulysses. And his lovely wife, Sandy Sunshine, who taught at Rowan Avenue Elementary School in East Los Angeles. This is somebody. Now, and the key, too, his gold medal was not the individual gold medal. It was a relay team that took coordinated effort. When Janice spoke about a group, I wasn't sure whether it was the 400 meters, and confirmed it was a relay. It is a relay that we're in right now, and everybody that we can affect is a good thing. And if the baton drops, get back up and keep running, because one day we'll reach our goal of peace. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ulysses, we love you. Mr. Park says hello.
Thank you, and I know Mr. Rosendahl will conclude, but I just want to thank you as well for coming to the city and being a part of it. Of course, of those of you who are already here, for growing this circle as well. My first job was teaching nonviolence in Burma with some of the resistance, the students and the monks who worked very hard and continue to work very hard for peace in their country. And I worked with veterans in Northeast Africa and Eritrea and Ethiopia, also teaching nonviolence. And this is something that we feel in distant shores, but we also feel it right here in our backyard. One of the greatest groups teaching nonviolence in the world is the Center for Nonviolent Parenting, which is run right here in Los Angeles, teaching that next generation. Ruth Beaglehold does an amazing job in the heart of Los Angeles, really raising a next generation to have a nonviolent future. So thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back to the maker of the motion, Mr. Rosendahl. And God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, I'm putting this hat on just to remind everybody that I was a veteran of the Vietnam era. My first year, I was a psychiatric social worker in a mental hygiene clinic, and I saw 8 or 9 Vietnam vets a day. I don't think a day goes by when I don't think about war and the tragedy that it creates for the individuals who participate in the war and to the harm that's created to everyone on this earth. We heard our president last night. Many of us have all kinds of feelings. I'm not going to make it a political statement about him. But let me say this, that if we connect ourselves as a people all over the planet, we all feel the pain of anyone who's being repressed, be it through a military action or through any other action, as Blaise Pompagne pointed out, the violence that is so outrageous on this earth. Love and peace conquers all. So what I'd like to do is hand out 2 certificates. I want to give the big one that we all signed, okay, to Tony Robertson for all he's doing all over the world. Stay over there, Tony. Generation and all of what you're doing for all of us on the earth. Okay? And the second one, folks, I would like to give to Cesar Chavez's grandson, because the future, again, is in a new leader emerging in the planet. Bless you both.
Thank you all very much. And we'll take a vote on this matter now before us. If we can please open the roll on this item. Please close the roll and tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
That passes unanimously. Congratulations, and thank you all very much. All right, if we can go to the next item that was called special, please.
Force and joy.
Thank you very much. With that, thank you very much. We'll go to item 9 next. I believe that was held for Ms. Hahn.
Yes.
Ms. Hahn, item number 9 is for you.
Okay, item number 9. Where the heck is it? Let's see. Item number 9. It's here somewhere. Here we go. Colleagues, I just wanted to bring this to our attention. We had this in Commerce, Trade, and Tourism, and this is an ordinance and permanent order to amend the Port of Los Angeles Tariff Number 4, which is relative to the Clean Air Action Plan, which has been adopted by both Long Beach and Los Angeles. And this is with the Voluntary Vessel Speed Reduction Program. And in 2001, the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach established the Voluntary Vessel Speed Reduction Program, designed specifically to reduce NOx emissions from the ships. Ocean-going vessels are considered to be the largest source of emissions in the port areas. And I always like to remind us that 20% of all the air pollution in the LA basin actually comes from the ships. So when the ships get about 20 nautical miles outside of the ports, around from Point Furman, we're asking them to voluntarily reduce their speeds to 12 knots. And doing this reduces both nitrogen oxide, NOx, and diesel particulate material emissions by an estimated 10% per arrival or departure. So under this amendment that we're doing, ships that voluntarily agree to reduce their speed to 12 knots at 40 nautical miles to and from Point Furman now are eligible for a 30% discount. And this incentive will increase the air quality benefits from 10% to 25% in NOx and diesel particulate material. And I just think this is important that we highlight this, that we all agree on this is a good use of revenue from the port to offer this incentive to the ships that agree to do this. Someday this will be mandatory. Someday it will be a state regulation and ultimately a federal regulation. But until then, we are asking them to voluntarily do this because it has such a dramatic impact in the decrease of air pollution in our area. And so the ports have agreed to offer this incentive to encourage more ships to participate in this program. I want to thank the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach for doing this and helping clean the air for all of Los Angeles, but particularly for those who are most affected by it in the Point Furman area of San Pedro. Thank you. I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hahn. No further speakers in the queue, so Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Next item is item 16, and that was called special for Councilmember Alarcon.
All right, Mr. Alarcon, we do have one card on that item. Would you like for them? All right, he's already had a hearing. We already had a hearing on this. So, Mr. Alarcon?
I have no problem with allowing the person to speak. Members, this item is related to the Earned Income Tax Credit. You know, we constantly talk about California being a donor state, meaning that we only get something like 73 cents for every federal tax dollar that we pay. We only get 73 cents back from the federal government in services. But would you be surprised to know that the state of California has $1 billion for individuals in your council districts who qualify for the Earned Income Tax Credit? $300 million is estimated to be an amount that is available to our constituents in the city of Los Angeles alone that they have not claimed in dollars, not just in the past year, but in the past several years. The Obama administration has increased the amount that you can qualify for. So I just want to mention to my colleagues, particularly Mr. Reyes, Ms. Perry, Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Wesson, Mr. Cardenas, Ms. Hahn, Mr. Parks, and those of us who have areas of highly dense, low-income folks, because these are the people that are not claiming their benefit. Let me give you an example. If a mother, head of household, has 3 children and earned an income of up to $43,000, she would be eligible for $5,600 in the earned income tax credit. So you're going to hear me talking about this over the next several months. CDD is vanguarding this. They have been vanguarding it. We have partners at the United Way who are doing some tremendous work, and also partners at the Franchise Tax Board who understand the message from the Obama administration to get these dollars out to the communities that need them so badly. So I just wanted to stress to you that I'm going to be designing specific programs in my district to reach out to folks who are probably eligible for these dollars with voluntary income tax assistance program, and with information that we are going to spearhead to get that information, to get those dollars into their pockets. But I want to encourage each of you to do the same in your districts for senior citizens who may not know. In fact, I asked my stepson just the other day if he received his credit, and he did not. And his taxes were done by H&R Block, and frankly, they don't have a problem charging $150 to get your expedited tax check, but they don't put the earned income tax credit on the filing, and he was eligible for about $800. So I want each and every one of you to develop your own program targeted for the people in your districts. This motion is intended to do several things. New York, by the way, sent out direct mailings. We are working with this motion will help us work with the Franchise Tax Board to get access to the information so that we can maybe get a mailer to our constituency to let them know that they have $300 million in the city of Los Angeles, but they have to claim it. So with that, I appreciate your support.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alarcon. There are no further speakers in the queue on this item, so Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll, close the roll, then tab.
13 ayes.
There had been a public hearing on this already. All right, Mr. Alarcon has requested that the individual who filled out the card on this item be given the opportunity to speak. So before we go to the next item, we'll just for the record have Mr. or Ms. Wallen. No? Is that the proper pronunciation?
Hello, Mr. Wallano from United Way of Greater Los Angeles, a program officer overseeing the Greater LA EITC campaign. And basically, the work we've done is basically direct people to the free tax sites that can help them claim this credit. And believe it or not, last year there was operated about 180 free tax sites that we can let people know where to go to. We have brochures, so to add to the mailings, you can contact us at United Way, and we can get you the brochures to direct people how to go to the website www.eitc-la.com, or call 211 so they can find the nearest site in which they can get the free tax service assistance to claim the earned income tax credit should they be eligible for that credit. And then it's estimated in the state of California that over 800,000 people, in LA County, 800,000 people qualify for about over $1.5 billion in this tax credit in just LA County alone. So just to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we voted on that item already, and the item was voted on, and we're on to the next item now. So the next item is Mr. Labange.
Item number 28.
Thank you very much, members. If I could ask Ms. Hahn also to join with me in this.
Mr. Labange, we have two cards on this item.
Okay.
So before we get into the meat of the matter, why don't we let the speakers go first? Now, John Walsh is here. Matthew Dowd, I do not see. Is Matthew Dowd in the chamber? And is Mr. Zuma Dog in the chamber? All right, so the only person here in the chamber at this time is John Walsh. Thank you very much. Mr. Walsh.
Can't get rid of me. The only way you're going to get rid of me with is a bullet from one of the gangs for speaking out against medical marijuana scam. I'm glad that we're doing something substantial here, because just yesterday I wrote my letter to Santa Claus, and I asked him, please, Santa, stop the medical phony marijuana clinics from being around schools. Please, Santa, this is about Dear Santa letters, and I'm sure you're interested in my Dear Santa letter. Please make sure that the lives of the children are not endangered by the drug cartels who sell marijuana to the medical marijuana clinics. And dear Santa, please save our neighborhood. And dear Santa, please give me a bulletproof vest. In fact, you have an agenda item coming up about bulletproof vests. HollywoodHighlands.org is where you will find out everything about Dear Santa, my website. And I want to agree that we have to watch out because the post office wants to cut out the Dear Santa letters. They don't want to deliver them anymore. And thanks to LaBonge and Mary Jane Hahn, she's named after the medical marijuana, thanks to them, we are now going to make sure that Santa Claus's letters are delivered to the North Pole. HollywoodHighlands.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh, and the public hearing is closed. Mr. LaBonge?
Members, Ms. Hahn and I didn't want to let this opportunity go by. As you may have seen on a national story, they talked about the challenges as it relates to the postal Dear Santa's letters. And our own post office here in Los Angeles, we have our representative. I'm going to give him some of my time here. Postmaster Rich, if you could Rich Marr, please give a little update to us, because we're going to be able to do it, but there's a little bit of a restriction, a little hiccup in the giddy-up, so to speak.
You may have heard that letters addressed to Santa will largely go unanswered this year through media reports, but that is not true. There has been a major change to the program this year where we will not release personal information, child's name, address, email, phone number, any of that type of information to the general public. Last year, Operation Santa, which began in 1912, where we make letters to Santa available to the public and postal employees to answer, was shut down because late in the season, a registered sex offender in Maryland adopted a letter to a child. An alert Postal Service employee caught that. Authorities were notified, and there was no contact between this person and the child. But in the past few years, increased privacy concerns have made several changes to this program. Some people have questioned our actions of providing personal information contained in the U.S. mail to the general public without the letter writer's approval. So this year, we will not do that. Because administering this program would be a very labor-intensive process with the Postal Service acting as middleman without making this actual letter available to somebody, the Southern California post offices have opted out of making the letters available to the public. But our employees, who have for almost 100 years been answering these letters, will be stepping up to the plate and answering Dear Santa letters, employees in Los Angeles, Orange County, and throughout Southern California.
So that being said, they're still going to find a way, even though there's a modern challenge. The modern challenge, I know we don't want to see anybody harmed. With that being said, with the adoption of this resolution, we're going to salute the Postal Service. And Postmaster Smith is here, who you recognize, who's coordinated so many special events for the Postal Service. Ms. Hahn and I want you all not to get an opportunity to join with us to pass this, because we remember in that classic movie, A Miracle on 34th Street, when they said, there is no Santa Claus, it was the young lawyer who said, well, the post office is a part of the government, and if the federal government recognizes it, that must be real. And then our perplexed judge saw bundles and bundles of letters addressed to Santa come in and delivered, and thus, yes, there is a Santa Claus. So we didn't want that to pass. We thank the Postal Service. I ask for an aye vote, and I thank you all, especially you, Madam President, for allowing this to be heard at this time. Thank you, Representative of the Postal Service.
Thank you very much, Mr. LaBonge. And Madam Clerk, if you would please open the roll on this item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Next item is item 23, and that was called special for cards.
Mr. Walsh, if you would please come forward. And is Vince Young in the audience? All right, there's no Vince Young here. So John Walsh will be our only speaker, and then we'll close the public hearing.
This concerns Homeland Security grants. It's complicated. But I'm surprised that the general service, the city police, aren't listed here, because I think they're doing a much better job of Homeland Security than Homeland Security is. They're doing a wonderful job. Let's go back the last 50 years. How many illegal trespasses of this building in the last 50 years? 0. Let's go to the White House. How many illegal trespasses of the White House in the past week? 2. But I want you to know, and incidentally, I want people out there who want to illegally trespass, realize you will be arrested here if you illegally trespass. At the White House, you'll get your own reality show. HollywoodHighlands.org. Read all about it.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please open the roll on this item? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Item number 24, call special for cards.
All right. Again, John Walsh. All right, Mr. Walsh, I believe you're out of time for today. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. All right, no speakers in the queue. If you would please open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
13 ayes.
Next item.
Item number 25, call special for cards.
Arnold Sachs. Is Arnold Sachs here? And is Zuma Dog here? Mr. Zuma Dog. All right, Mr. Sachs is our only speaker on this item, and then we will close the public hearing.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. My concern regarding this item is the amount of money to be spent on the traffic control officers for traffic control. There was an article in the LA Times from October 18th stating that they were going to be paid $40.92 to direct traffic at the Greek Theater. So I was wondering, are they getting $40.92 for traffic control at Lankershim Boulevard? And if they're not, then what does the $40.92 represent at the Greek Theater? Oh, that's the overtime pay. So why does the city pay overtime to traffic control for arenas? It's mind-boggling, the financial policies that you have, and yet you're going to help to solve world peace. Your financial policy.
Mr. Cardenas. Mr. Cardenas.
Yeah, just asking that we receive and file the item. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please open the roll. Close the roll and then tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Next item, Madam President, are the closed session items, and there are cards on 2 of them. Items 31 and 33 both have cards. Would you like to hear?
Yeah, I'd like to take that public comment before we go into closed session. Mr. Sachs, why don't you come forward on item 31, and Zuma Dog, who is not present in the chamber, on 33, so I will put his card in there as part of the official record, and then we will have an admonition from the city attorney, and then go into closed session.
As soon as I get her attention. It was fascinating. Yesterday at the County Board of Supervisors, part of their discussion was regarding their budget and the amount of money they paid out in lawsuits. And somebody from the city department mentioned that the county board spent 0.5% of their budget. Their budget is $22 billion. And 0.5% of that was $100 million on payouts for lawsuit settlements. Yet the city of LA spent 1% of its budget, $70 million of its budget. But the person went on to explain that the county has hospitals and prison and jails and social services that the city doesn't have. So the city's payouts deal mostly with these complaints in harassment suits and complaints of that nature. So they don't have the, like I said, the hospital, they don't have the children's services, they don't have the jails, the prisons that this county has. It's where a lot of complaints rise there. So it's litigate, litigate, litigate. When is the city council, which this is a redundant question, But when is the city council going to take a stand on the expense for fees? This article said city's legal costs nearly double. This is from November 10th. Enough money to hire 1,300 police at $137 million over 2 years. So that leads to the question of, well, they raised the trash fees and they got over $130 million.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, thank you very much. That marks the end of our public hearing. And if I can have an admonition from the city attorney and then assistance in clearing the chamber so that we can go into closed session.
Before we do that, if I could have 23 go forthwith, please.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. 23.
And, Madam President, I believe earlier in the meeting, Mr. Parks moved on item number 31 that the city attorney's recommendation be adopted by council.
All right. Do we need to open the roll on that, Madam Clerk? Did we take a vote on that already, Madam Clerk?
No, that needs a vote on item number 31.
All right. Let's open the roll on item 23, please. 31. I'm sorry. 31. And then close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right. Thank you. We ready to go into closed session?
Yes, Madam President.
All right. Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A on items number 32 and 33.
All right. So if we can have assistance by our officers to clear the chamber, keeping only necessary personnel, so that we can now go into closed session.
First item before council is item number 32, and that's partial settlement in the case of Moreno versus City of LA, and the amount is $29,080.
Please open the roll on that item. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
Next item.
Next item is item number 33, and that settlement in the case of Stein versus City. The settlement amount is $1 million, and the council needs to make findings based on the CAO and CLA recommendations, and those need to be done in open session. That the settlement is in the best interest of the city, that there are no other sources of available money to pay the settlement amount on a timely basis pursuant to the terms of the settlement agreement, that the city intends to make one or more interfund borrowings or advances from the reserve fund to pay all or a portion of the settlement on an interim basis, which loan or advance will be refunded or reimbursed with proceeds of the judgment obligation bond, and that the city will obtain a stipulated judgment pursuant to Code of Civil Procedure Section 664.6.
All right, would you please open the roll on the findings? Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
12 ayes.
All right. Next order of business.
Council has motions for posting and referral.
Motions are posted and referred.
If there are excuses on the desk, Councilmember Wesson requests to be excused Tuesday, December 8th for city business that meets council policy.
No, without objection.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused the first Fridays of each month of next year for SCAQMD meetings. Those are all for city business. Those all meet council policy.
All right.
Councilmember Smith requests to be excused April 9th, 13th, 14th, and 16th for personal business that meets council policy.
Without objection.
Councilmember Perry requests to be excused Wednesday, January 13th, to leave at 11 a.m. for city business that meets council policy.
Fine, I'm not objecting.
Councilmember Zine requests to be excused Wednesday, January 6th, Friday, January 8th for the entire meetings, and Friday, January 22nd to leave at 11:15. Those are all for city business, and they meet council policy.
All right, Mr. Koretz moves, Ms. Hahn seconds.
And Councilmember Hahn requests to be excused Wednesday, January 6th for personal business that meets council policy.
Mr. Rosendahl moves, Mr. Smith seconds.
And Councilmember Wesson requests to be excused August 13th and August 20th. Those are for city business, and they meet council policy.
All right, Mr. Alarcon moves, Mr. Parks seconds.
And that clears the desk.
All right, thank you very much. Members, are there any announcements? Any announcements? Mr. Labange, do you have an announcement?
I do. Tomorrow evening on the 3rd of December, us all together in the Los Angeles Zoo parking lot with their bicycles as we open up the 2009 Department of Water and Power Holiday Light Festival in Griffith Park. Started by then Council President John Ferraro from Park Central in Griffith Park through to the zoo. Holiday lead environmentally sensitive lights display many, many beautiful parts of our city and design, and salutes the late, great William Mulholland. It's a bike night. Come to the Los Angeles Zoo parking lot. And if you do come, Mr. Zine, we'll look for you and make sure you have a good time. Make sure you have the streamers on your bike like you did last year.
Thank you very much, Mr. Labange. Mr. Parks, did you have an announcement? All right, Mr. Rosendahl, do you have an... All right, well then let's all rise for adjourning motions. All right, Mr. Labange has an adjourning motion.
Thank you. Members, this is in honor of a very special family member to our recently retired Rebecca Encinas from our clerk's office. Her brother, Frank Charles Garzo, was a great guy who loved life. Grew up in the City Terrace area, went to Garfield High School, joins the United States Marines, and was very proud to serve as a Marine, earned the Purple Heart, being wounded in Vietnam. Frank also was a very active member of the American Legion, volunteering his time to cook for the vets and do many other things to help inspire that. As a member of the Legion's Color Guard, he often welcomed home returning soldiers from Afghanistan and Iraq. He's survived by 5 children and his sister, as we know, Rebecca, and their mother. I just know in talking to Becky, her brother was the pride of her life that she really loved, and he absolutely loved life. So I ask all members to join in adjournment for Frank Charles Garzo.
Thank you, all members on that. Thank you. Mr. Parks, do you have an adjourning motion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to ask that we adjourn in memory of Joseph Abraham Hubbard, Jr., passed away on Sunday, November 22nd. Joe was very involved in his community. He's a member for 20-plus years on the CRA LA Crenshaw Redevelopment Project Area Community Advisory Committee. He also was a member of the Crenshaw Corridor Specific Plan Design Review Board since 2005. He was an advocate and advisor to the Greater Crenshaw-Lamert Park Business Improvement District and outreach coordinator for the Crenshaw-Slauson Commercial Facade Improvement Program. He's also a champion of economic development and community development in Crenshaw, including the Santa Barbara Plaza, the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, Lamert Park Village, the Vision Theater, Expo Light Rail, and the proposed Crenshaw Light Rail. He's also the co-founder of Lonnie and the first president of the Lonnie Board of Directors, and also co-founded the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Network, which held monthly community meetings at DWP. Joe's a longtime advocate of an avid USC football supporter. His funeral service will be held Friday, December the 4th at Simpson's Mortuary at 3443 West Manchester. Interment will immediately follow at Inglewood Cemetery. Joe's survived by many family members. One thing, Joe was an individual that really participated in the community, and the one downside is he always wanted to be alive when Marlton Square came online. And unfortunately, that didn't occur. But he's a guy that took 20 years of his life participating in community activities. I'd also ask that we adjourn in memory of Carlene Coggs, who passed away November 28, 2009. She was born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas, graduated from Dunbar High School. She married and moved to Los Angeles in 1943. I'm 47. She and her husband, the pastor Coggs, took over the Progressive Baptist Church, where she served as the pastor's wife for 40 years. In 1970, they opened the Progressive Home for the Elderly, a 6-story senior citizen low-income apartment complex, where she served as the administrator. In 1996, a second low-income senior facility was opened. She also served as the president of the board of directors. Today, there's over 250 senior citizens enjoying affordable, compassionate living environment in those two facilities. She's survived by her sister and a host of other family members. Her funeral services are pending.
Ms. Hahn and I would also like to sign on to your motion for Mr. Hubbard, Mr. Parks. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise and we adjourn in honor of Robert Burke, better known as Bob Burke, who was born in Bronx, New York on March 18, 1948. He graduated from Pomona College, Phi Beta Kappa, and then received his law degree from UCLA Law School. He was a resident of the Pacific Palisades for more than 30 years. Bob began his legal career as a deputy public defender, handling criminal cases for 8 years. He then served as a staff attorney with the Center for Law and the Public Interest, where he litigated complex civil and class action matters, emphasizing public interest law. Bob was a staunch fighter for human rights and a tireless advocate for the downtrodden. Bob eventually formed his own legal firm, handling civil rights, personal injury, and criminal cases. Bob was president of the California's Attorneys for Criminal Justice and was recently honored as one of the top attorneys in California. You know, in this job, folks, we meet a lot of people and we interact with a lot of people. And I met Bob because he served as president of the Pacific Palisades Democratic Club. He created that club's energy, built up its membership. In fact, under his leadership, the club instituted in 2008 at Democratic headquarters on Wilshire Boulevard in Santa Monica for 8 months. Bob passed away suddenly, just now, on Saturday, at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica with complications from pneumonia. There's still an autopsy going on. With the family at his bedside, he was just 61 years old. Bob is survived by his mother, Sylvia Burke, and his son, Chad, and stepfather, Emmanuel Foster. Services will be held this Sunday, December 6th, at 1 p.m. at the Kial Israel, located at 16019 Sunset Boulevard in the Pacific Palisades. The whole community is going to turn out in the Palisades. He was a remarkable man. I got to know him quite well over the 5 years that I've been in office. He truly cared about making the world a better place, engaging himself in all civil and social issues. He was a human rights fighter, and he made that Democratic Party in the Palisades a must-stop by for any Democrat who wants to be anything. They got to go by that Democratic Party. May Bob Burke rest in peace.
Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Zine.
Two adjourning motions. Robert Lee Woolley Jr. passed away under hospice care at his home in Woodland Hills after losing the battle over cancer. Born January 24th, 1916 in Marlow, Oklahoma. Was the 8th of 11 children. Married to the lovely May Edith West for over 59 years. She passed after a long battle with cancer in 2005. Was a member of a senior group, member of the Reseda Baptist Church, loved to play pool, dominoes. His favorite pastime was watching old movies and eating ice cream. Will be dearly missed by his friends, family, and the community. Survived by a brother, Gene Woolley, his only son, William Woolley, and additional members, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. My other adjourning motion is for Scott Spillman. Was a dedicated member of 3rd Council District. Was a loved and respected resident of Canoga Park. one of the many individuals who's committed to the community, volunteered his free time to Sunrise Little League as a board member and as a coach, devoted his life to his children, was a great teacher and role model, was a Valley boy through and through growing up, resided in Canoga Park, graduated from Cleveland High School in '81, where he excelled athletically and by all means socially, and then attended Henderson State University in Arkansas on an academic athletic scholarship. After college, returned home, worked hard and succeeded in all facets of sales since he was 13 years of age, whether it was delivering groceries for the local liquor store on his mini bike, serving fast food at Pup and Taco, or on Catalina Island during the summer months, managing fitness centers, banking, selling securities for Morgan Stanley, and more recently, providing outstanding service to the packing and shipping industry. His main desire was to find time to do what he truly loved, which was to spend as much time with his family, coaching, exercising, enjoying life to its fullest. Scott always became an integral part of every organization associated with, from boards of local little leagues, softball leagues, and youth football. Coached numerous athletic teams for his own children, and unselfishly many teams that his children didn't even play on. Most recently, Sierra Canyon's freshman football team, all the while teaching each child like they were his own, which was something Scott learned early on with his own experience as a boy growing up competing year-round in sports, with great guidance from all of his influential coaches. Anyone that knew Scott ended up having a friend for life, whether you were around him often or not. Always welcomed you with a great handshake and incredible hug. When you did see him, his brother, Mark Spellman, stated, quote, "Mark will be missed by everyone, and over time, his pain shall turn to a smile and a chuckle when this great man is remembered by how he touched your life." Scott Spellman, you shall always burn bright on our hearts and always be remembered. Survived by his wife, Diana, 14-year-old daughter, Shannon, 6-year-old son, Troy, 2 brothers, Mark and Steve. May he rest in peace, Scott Spillman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zine. That concludes our adjourning motions. Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?